I have school policy handbook from Southborough to share with you if you want at some point.
The time being 6:04, I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the Monday, March 28th, 2016 meeting of the Oxford School Committee. Can you? Okay. All right. If you can. Our first item on the agenda is our student representative, so I'd like to turn the floor over to Amy Rose. Amy?
In a few weeks, the NHS and Student Council will be continuing their RSVP throughout the school, and now that we've narrowed down our 3 top choices, we're going to go in and collect votes and student voice on how to improve our school. And the sophomores recently took their ELA MCAS last week, so I'd like to say congrats and good job to them. A final push until May when they have to take their math ones. And congrats to the boys basketball team for their unfortunate loss at the state semifinals in Springfield, but we're proud of how far they came, and this was the farthest they've come in the past 10 years, I believe.
Thank you, Amy. All right. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting on March 14th, 2016. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Let the record show that the minutes are accepted with 4 in the affirmative and 1 absent. Next on our agenda, under unfinished business, is the second reading of updates to school committee policies, the legal counsel policy, harassment policy, and non-discrimination policy. I'll turn the floor over to Vice Chair Spitz, who also serves as chair of the policy subcommittee.
Okay. I would like to make a motion that we waive the second reading and approve as written.
So moved. I had to figure out what you're saying, Bill.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record show that those 3 policies now pass with 4 in the affirmative and 1 absent. Thank you again, Mr. Spitz, and to the members of your subcommittee for your work.
You're welcome.
The next item on our agenda is the district reconfiguration. I'd like to turn the floor over to Dr. Garceau.
Thank you, Chairman. As the committee will recall, 2 weeks ago, we started the public discussions about reconfiguration. I just wanted to provide a brief overview again of that process, and we also have the administrations from all of our schools here to address any concerns or questions that you may have. The moving parts are a little more complicated at the secondary level, so I did want to provide time for Principal Tebow and Mr. Canartioli and also Mr. Phillips to address that as we go. But district reconfiguration, just very briefly again to review. In the fall, there was a study group established townwide that included a number of teachers, parents, administrators, community members, and school committee members. Mr. Pitar and Ms. Griffin also sat on that committee. Ms. Griffin chaired the committee. We held a number of meetings through the month of January 2016, looking at a whole host of possibilities. But really what we started with were a small number of very essential questions. What we wanted to look at was how might restructuring or reimagining how our schools are configured assist us in maximizing our efficiencies, which is of course one of our priorities at all time. Could it have impact on decreasing the number of students who are choosing out of Oxford to attend schools elsewhere, which has a lot of implications for the district? And the bottom line always is how might any reconfiguring improve learning outcomes for all students? So we had some things that we knew. Chafee right now, as it's configured with the pre-K through 2, is at capacity. There is no space in that building anywhere. Where I had tried to budget for the opening of additional classrooms in Chafee. If we were successful in doing that, there's no room, there's no place for them to go. We would have to make a move. We did know that Barton has some available space. We did know that OMS and OHS both have some available space. We recognize that the current configuration requires multiple transitions, meaning, especially previously last year, where the pre-K was at Barton, and then kids would go to Chaffey for grades K, 1, and 2. Then they'd go back to Barton for 3 and 4, then to the middle school for 5, 6, 7, 8, then to the high school. So we had multiple transitions, and if there was any opportunity to lessen the impact of that, we wanted to consider that. And frankly, the current configuration has not resulted in the improved outcomes that some had thought that it would, or had hoped that it would. For example, when we went away from neighborhood schools to our current configuration, or when we moved the 8th grade out of OHS and down to the middle school, which was done a number of years ago. They haven't really paid the dividends that folks were hoping that they would, those changes. We also do know that we tend to lose too many students to surrounding districts. We will always have students who are going to go to our vocational school, and we have X number of seats allocated for that each year. And we recognize that. We'd like to be able to meet the needs of all of our students right here in district, but we know we're going to lose kids to Bay Path. We lose an alarming number of kids to surrounding communities as well, though. We have a very high number of students who choose out and attend in Dudley Charlton. We have a number of students who choose out and attend in Auburn, Webster, Douglas, Uxbridge, Leicester, virtually all of our neighbors. And there are reasons that happens, and a lot of times those reasons are based in reality or based in perceptions, and we're working very, very hard over the last year and a half to address both. But we recognize that if a student and their family is going to make a decision to leave the district, that often happens during that 8th grade year, and it's often at the end of 8th grade when students choose to pick up and relocate to another school because their schools start 9 to 12. It's the clean cutoff point. So we know that's a reality. We also, in talking with folks as we went through this process, learned that the reasons that we went away from neighborhood schools to our current configuration, there were concerns about social segregation. There were concerns about the perception that there were different expectations and outcomes for students in the 2 elementaries. And now where we have full grade levels in each building, the expectations are uniformly high. The top one there, that parents choose out because they believe OXPS is not the best option, is really axiomatic. That's why people make that decision. Again, I don't share that opinion, and we're working really hard to make sure that we turn any of those perceptions around. And we also recognize that parents of current 4th graders have a lot of anxiety about their 4th grade child, soon to be a 5th grade child, attending the middle school with 8th graders. And that's part of the reason people choose out as well. Our 8th grade class are a great bunch of students. We have excellent teachers there, but parents have anxiety about that, and we have to recognize that as a reality. So as we discussed last time, through all those meetings and the recommendations, some proposals just didn't make any sense and were shelved. Others we continued to look at, and we had to look at whether or not they were viable options. And the two recommendations that I highlighted 2 weeks ago, and again we can hear about more tonight, are moving grade 2 from Chaffey to Barton. And what that would allow us to do is that grade 2 students at Barton, we'd have the ability to identify those students early on, provide them all the supports that they need in order to be prepared for grade 3 at Barton when, frankly, MCAS or PARC or MCAS 2.0 comes online, and it's the first time the students are being subjected to the accountability system. It would also allow for Chaffey to focus on early literacy and numeracy. If we were to, again, because Chaffey has no room, if we were to take the preschool out of there again and move it to the other side of the city, the other side of the town, I should say, we would have preschool at Barton and K over at Chaffey, where if we have them in the same building, we can provide early interventions, pick up on screenings and recognize those students who are in the pre-K program who without intervention or without support are going to struggle mightily in K or maybe not even be grade 1 ready. So it really only makes sense to have pre-K, K in the same building together, and that would make Chaffey be a pre-K, K, and one school. The pre-K would be able to remain at Chafee, obviously, and we'd be able to utilize the available space at Barton. The taxpayers made a considerable investment in expanding the space at Barton a number of years ago, and we want to make sure that we're using that as efficiently as we possibly can. The other slightly more complicated part of this is the idea of moving grade 8 to Oxford High School. We recognize that those same type of parents who were concerned about their 5th graders attending the middle school would have some concern about their 8th graders attending the high school, but the high school can talk more about their plans for providing a space so that the 8th graders are somewhat separated from the rest of the school at the high school, the upper grades in particular. We also have to plan for some, social activities and those kinds of things that'll make our 8th graders feel as important and as special as they are, while part of the OHS community. It would give our top students at the 8th grade, and especially if we were to establish the 8th grade Honors Academy, access to higher level courses. We have 8th grade students, again, who leave Oxford because their parents feel that we don't offer the opportunities for academic achievement that maybe our other surrounding communities do. So for example, if the 8th grade were to move to the high school, our 8th grade students would have access to the higher level math courses that would allow them to earn high school credit beginning in the 8th grade. They would also have access to the foreign language department, which is not offered at OMS currently. We don't have foreign language at OMS. There would be a lot of opportunity for our top-level 8th grade students in an 8th grade Honors Academy at OHS that just can't be offered currently at OMS. It would allow for an increased focus at OMS on the science and technology and engineering assessment instruments. Currently, science, technology, engineering are tested in grades 5, 8, and 10. And OMS is responsible, obviously, for grades 5 and 8. If grade 8 were to move over to the high school, OMS could really focus their energies on improving literacy and numeracy outcomes and that one grade of science, technology, and engineering at the high school. Creating an 8th grade Honors Academy, frankly, would raise the district's profile and would make it a more attractive place to be. We also believe strongly that if 8th grade students were here at OHS and part of this learning community here at OHS and part of the academics, part of the social scene, they would be far less likely to even consider attending other schools. They would recognize the great opportunities that OHS provides. And we could start to turn around this issue where we have students choosing out and choosing out and choosing out, which is at the expense of the district. We're losing a lot of our top flight kids unnecessarily, and in all honesty, when those children leave us, with them goes the funding as well. So the challenge of choice is a very real challenge for us. Part of the exciting part of this proposal is that we also have a plan to simultaneously launch a one-to-one initiative. Mr. Phillips, our Director of Technology, has been spending down, and he'll give an update on this project in a little while, spending down the $810,000 capital outlay that the taxpayers of the community were kind enough to support us in last year. And as he's done so, he's identified savings, and he's constantly looking for savings as he buys the security cameras, and he buys computers, and he buys laptops, and he buys digital projectors. And he has carved out enough money to be able to launch a one-to-one initiative at the high school, which will, at a minimum, allow us to put a Chromebook or a similar device in the hand of every 8th grader and 9th grader attending OHS next year, as well as their teachers. There's also a plan for Mr. Phillips to relocate his office from Maple Road to this building, so he'll be in the building in order to provide professional development on technology integration and support of learning outcomes. So every entering OHS student would be issued an OXPS-owned Chromebook or similar in support of building a 21st century skills and expanding the district engagement with digital learning, accessing the internet, digital course materials, and digital textbooks. Frankly, part of the perception around our district is that there are people in surrounding communities, there were even people in this community who thought in terms of technology we were backwards, we were behind the 8 ball. I can tell you with the, again, with the support of the voters, we have made a serious investment in instructional technology in the district, and this next step would really put us at the forefront in the region and create a niche for us where the Oxford Public Schools would be recognized as a leader in instructional technology in the region, just the opposite of what that perception had been to date. The benefits of a one-to-one initiative are going to be enumerated more by Mr. Phillips and Mr. Tebow when they come up to the table. But the summary of the proposed reconfiguration again, and then I would ask with the chair's permission to have Mr. Tebow and Mr. Canacchioli and Mr. Phillips come up to the table and speak more about this, would be to relocate grade 2 to Clara Barton, which would make Chaffey a pre-K to 1. It would make Barton a 2 to 4, and then relocate to OHS, grade 8. So that OMS would become a 5-7 and OHS would become an 8-12 with the launch of the one-to-one initiative. So gentlemen, if you wouldn't mind coming up. We do have packets, so hopefully they all get down here. Yep.
Good evening. So just again, why the move to why move grade 8 to OHS? I think the main reason is clear. It's so that the Oxford Public School District can better deal with the issue or the challenge of choice. As Dr. Gusso alluded to, we lose approximately 39 or 40 students a year to Bay Path. We lose a number of other students, between 5 and 10, which is a significant percentage of our class, to private schools each year, and or another small chunk to other school choice districts. So it's our belief at the high school that if students were here and part of this school, they would see the many great things going on here, whether it be athletic, the advanced placement programs, quite frankly, as Dr. Gusso alluded to, the idea that they could get started in a world language at a younger age. I think that if the students were here at 8th grade, it would really position us to better deal with this challenge of school choice that we've faced. In addition to that, students would be able to access advanced high school classes earlier in their high school career. So currently, we have some sections in 8th grade who are taking Algebra 1. It's certainly our goal, to hopefully get all students by 8th grade in an Algebra 1 curriculum, because that positions them in their 3rd and 4th year to be in the AP Calculus and AP Stats in some of these advanced courses, and or to take dual enrollment courses at whether it be QCC or Nichols or any of the other surrounding colleges. Expansion of the world language program is really another key piece to this. As we look to expand our AP offerings, one of the places that I look to for this coming year was going to be Spanish, advanced placement Spanish. But one of the concerns that was raised by the World Language Department, by the teachers, is that our World Language 1 students are behind other World Language 1 students in surrounding communities, because those communities are able to support world language at the middle school level. So, heeding their advice, I think it's important that we recognize we need our students to get involved in that world languages. Also, it's for the students, right? Because the most competitive colleges and universities, they want to see at minimum 2 years of the same language, but the real competitive schools, they're looking for 3 and 4 years of the same world language. So this would allow us to position our students upon their graduation from Oxford High School to have many more options than some of them currently have. And then again, we're always looking to expand the visual and performing arts programs as well here at Oxford High School. And so by having 8th grade here, they'd be able to participate in our, Art 1 or Digital Design 1 or some of those, or theater or chorus or what have you, in 8th grade, so that they can, again, get further up the ladder in those areas if that's their passion. We started this year when we expanded AP, we made a conscious decision to include the arts. So we have a student who's taking AP Studio Art, for example. if our students can take Art 1 in 8th grade, that's one additional year of instruction in art that they're going to have that's going to better position them when they become a senior or a junior in that AP Studio Art program. And the same with AP Music Theory, et cetera. So we're constantly looking to expand our arts, both visual and performing as well. And then another benefit to this would be at the middle school, allowing them to re-examine how services are delivered to students so that they can enhance the delivery, of intervention and enrichment opportunities for students in grades 5 through 7. And we're confident that the reorganization would allow them to do that. So the current 8th grade configuration, just so that we have a clear picture of what it looks like, there are 6 sections that made up of approximately 150 students, or 150 students rather, make up those 6 sections. 2 of the advanced sections are currently enrolled in Algebra 1. There are 2 that would be college and career success prep level who are in Algebra 1, but really those students need some review of pre-algebra concepts at the start, and so maybe those 2 sections don't finish the entire curriculum of Algebra 1. And then there are 2 sections of co-taught classes which follow the grade 8 math standards. So that's the current setup in terms of the math instruction they're receiving. And students, obviously, they take 8th grade ELA, 8th grade science, 8th grade social studies. They also have STEM and physical education as specials. So what we'd be proposing here, if the 8th grade came up, first off, to address the big concern, because I know it came up in our reconfiguration committee meetings, the biggest concern that I heard would be that parents would be concerned, and understandably so. Is my 8th graders going to be mixed into classes with our seniors, our 12th graders? And that's obviously not what we'd be looking to do. So we've located some rooms that we have available in the building by relocating some of the existing offices we have on this first floor. We're confident that we'd be able to offer the core classes, the core 8th grade classes, so social studies, math, science, and ELA. We'd be able to offer those in the A100s hallway, which is this hallway we're in now, and the A200s, which is directly above us. 8th graders during the transition would use one stairwell for that piece, so they would be effectively most of the day they would be traveling with their peers in 8th grade, so it wouldn't be that mix, 8th and 12th grade, which is what is so concerning for many parents. The non-core classes would take place outside the A100s and A200s. So, for example, physical education is obviously going to take place in the gym. But what we would do for scheduling is we'd make sure that the gym classes are all 8th graders. So again, we wouldn't have 8th graders in physical education class with juniors or seniors. That would not happen. Art. Same thing, the art rooms are right next to this A200s hallway, so it'd be a very short transition, and again, they wouldn't be mingling with the seniors. Also, we would add a lunch. We would have to add a lunch here. Currently, we have 3 lunches. We'd add a 4th lunch. That 4th lunch would be just for 8th graders. So we would do that work again so that they're not in with seniors for any significant period of time throughout the day. The proposed schedule, and again, we want to build an honors academy, but I didn't want to, the details, and I should stress that everything, I'm talking about today needs to be fine-tuned, obviously, but this is where our thinking is currently. So they would take grade 8 ELA, grade 8 mathematics, or Algebra 1. Again, our goal eventually is to get to a point where all of our 8th graders are taking Algebra 1. Grade 8 science, grade 8 social studies, grade 8 physical education, grade 8 world language exploratory, or for our advanced sections, and this is where the Honors Academy would come in and you'd see some differentiation. Students in our Honors Academy, we'd want to be taking World Language 1. So whether it be Spanish 1 or French 1, they would go in right into that first level of a world language course, and they'd earn high school credit for it, so that hopefully those students, if they stick with a language and they're passionate about it, would be very well prepared in their senior year to take an AP Spanish class, or if the interest is there, French at that point. Also, visual and performing arts electives. and we would implement some type of a grade 8 advisory program. And again, the star you see there, the asterisk you see, it just denotes that that course would result in high school credit being awarded to our grade 8 students. So that's our current level of thinking right at the moment. Proposed grade 8 staffing, okay, the staffing would be mostly cost neutral because what we did was we met with Mr. Canacchioli and we looked at how the 8th grade is currently staffed, and we kind of figured out how we would be able to make this cost neutral for the district. And so we'd be looking at one ELA teacher, one mathematics teacher, a science teacher, social studies teacher, a special education co-teacher, one elective teacher, a guidance counselor, and a dean of students. And again, some of this, there's implications with the budget, obviously, and the override and that type of thing. So again, those details to be worked out, but this is what we feel would be necessary to have the 8th grade come on board. So the next steps, so this is important because if we are going to pursue this reconfiguration with April 1st being this Friday, we really need a unified approach. We need to know that we're all on board and it's kind of full steam ahead, all hands on deck approach because it is getting late, later in the school year. And as you can see, there are many moving parts to this. We'd need to finalize the schedule. We would need to finalize the details that this would have on transportation. Staffing decisions would need to be finalized, details on extracurricular activities in terms of, some are easy things. Like, for example, 8th grade being up at the high school would mean we would no longer need a waiver for 8th graders to participate in our athletics program. The MIAA rule is very clear that if you have the students in 8th grade under the same building and under the same principal, they are allowed to participate without a waiver. So that would obviously strengthen some of our smaller programs where we go for a waiver. Every year we know we're going to need a waiver for winter track, for example, or softball for the last 2 years in order to run a JV program. So having the 8th graders on hand would obviously help our athletic program. And again, that's not, many schools in the area already have their 8th graders participating with their high school athletics, but that would just be one item that would strengthen our athletic program. Other extracurricular activities, obviously, we would also plan too in terms of dances and different things like that. Those details would need to be finalized and worked out. And then perhaps the most important are planning of parent nights and other transition details. Those would all need to be worked on and finalized so that we can make a transition. Again, I just stress the importance of the timing in all of this. If it's going to happen, we need, to get going sooner rather than later. Any delay would probably mean that we wouldn't be looking at this for next year. The one nice thing about doing it this year would be we do have a longer summer than another, because we started early this school year. So that would be helpful in terms of planning and the physical transition and things like that. So that's kind of the reconfiguration. The key part of this, though, also is our one-to-one initiative. And as part of the reconfiguration, we're very excited that in at least grades 8 and 9, we'll be able to launch a one-to-one initiative. We're hoping to potentially do it 8 through 12 for next year, but in at least grades 8 through 9, we're positioned to launch a one-to-one initiative. So why one-to-one? Dr. Gusseau touched on this research at the last school committee meeting, but one reason is that there's significant research out there that shows that one-to-one devices help improve the engagement level of students. Students, if they have the technology, are more plugged in, they're more engaged, and the research bears that out. Technology skills is also a key part of this. We talk a lot about the student we want to graduate. We talk a lot about the fact that we want our students to be college and career ready. you can't have students college and career ready for the 21st century if you're working with 20th century technology. So the one-to-one initiative would really build upon the progress we've made this year. Rather than it just being in the teacher's hands, now we'd be getting it into the students' hands, and that's exciting and extremely important. It also addresses the equity issue in terms of technology, because we assume in today's day and age that every student has smart technology or access to the internet or access to a laptop, and that's really not accurate. And this would allow us to ensure that every student at Oxford High School had access, the same access to technology. And then finally, cost efficiencies is another one. Proponents of one-to-one programs assert that such programs create savings in other areas, including reduced costs for textbooks, paper assessments, and paperwork, as well as reduction in disciplinary actions. We're already seeing some of this with our social studies program. This year we launched Chromebooks in social studies with digital access to digital textbooks. With that access also comes a number of other resources, both for the teachers as well as the students. They have online formative assessments that students can engage in to check their own learning, and so there's a lot of benefits to this one-to-one. The research also says, though, that planning is critical to the success of any one-to-one initiative, and so. Since that is one of the biggest determinant factors, Mr. Phillips and I have looked at other communities that have been successful. We've reached out to other administrators at the high school level who have recently launched one-to-ones, and we've kind of started to put together a plan for the implementation of our one-to-one initiative. And we've broken it down to 3 phases. The first phase would be the pre-implementation phase. That would start again, as soon as a vote is taken, but that would be starting now in the spring of 2016 and continue throughout the summer and into the fall. And it starts with providing our teachers the devices and the professional development to go with it, because just putting the one-to-ones are a tool, they're not an end. And so we need our teachers to understand how to use them and how to leverage them for improved outcomes for our students. And so the first step in this plan would be to get the devices into their hands, and then to immediately start to have Mr. Phillips provide professional development during common planning time or other PD release times for our staff and our faculty. The other critical part of the pre-implementation phase, as we see it, is getting the parents on board, and so having parent meetings so that they can be aware that this is coming and what the policies are going to be, what the expectations are for its use, and maybe even offer them some professional development so that they can help their children when they're using these devices during the school year. And then finally, the final piece of this pre-implementation phase would be final decisions would have to be made with respect to the scale of the one-to-one initiative. And we'll show that later on a slide, just in terms of the funding sources and that type of thing. Phase 2 would be the launch. It would be early fall of 2016. Again, the professional development is key, and so that's the first bullet there, is that during CPT, during common planning time, we'll leverage that resource for professional development so that the teachers will feel very comfortable. Also, one of the things that Mr. Phillips is going to really focus on is getting access to different apps that can be used for content-specific instruction, so that this is not just word processing. This is not just using Microsoft Office. We want it to be much more than that. We want it to really enhance the educational experience for our students. And so Mr. Phillips would be key in making sure that the teachers know what apps are available and have an opportunity to work with them to see how they would fit into our curriculum. Devices will be distributed to students and parents during this launch. Also, there would be an option for insurance, to make sure that we're protected against any lost or damaged devices. And again, communication will be key so that the parents understand exactly how that will work. And then finally, assemblies will be scheduled like we always do at the start of the school year, but our assemblies at the start of the school year obviously will focus on the devices and the expectations that go along with those devices. And then finally, phase 3 is just its maintenance. So now that we have the devices, now that we've launched the one-to-one initiative, it's really about maintaining, making sure all the students have functioning devices, making sure the teachers have functioning devices. Technology will have to address any issues that come up, and whenever you have a launch like this or a pilot program, you know that there will be some things that even with the best planning you didn't anticipate, and so that's really the maintenance piece of it. Also, future budgets will include the recurring cost to ensure that students have access to functioning one-to-one devices through a school lease program, which is addressed, I think, on the next slide with the funding. So this is the funding for the one-to-one initiative. You'll notice that the 8th grade is about 150 students, as we had mentioned, who would be coming up. Those would be owned, and the funding source would be savings from the capital exclusion, and that's about $42,000. 9th grade would be another 120 devices. Those would also be owned and funded through the capital exclusion at $34,000. Now, the next 3 grades that you see up there are if we decide we can make it work. But currently, we have 100 Chromebooks that are in use in the history department. If we went a full 8 through 12 launch, those would be repurposed for students because every student would have one, so you wouldn't need them to sit in the history classrooms at that point. Those are already owned, and so you see a $0 cost there. And then the 11th and 12th grade would be 100 each, and those would be leased because it's significantly cheaper than purchasing them. And so that's how we would maintain a functioning fleet of these devices, is that we'd continually lease some so that as they aged out, we'd be replacing them with 3-year leased machines. So the next steps in terms of the one-to-one initiative: finalize the scale of the project, finalize the policies and insurance program, development of professional development, that's redundant, but developing a professional developing program for the faculty, and then finalize purchase and implementation plan for all of the devices. And again, just as the reconfiguration, this is time sensitive as well, because again, as you can see, there's a lot of details that need to be ironed out, finalized, and planned to make sure that this goes smoothly. And so again, why the reconfiguration? It's going to allow us to better address the challenge of school choice. I really believe that once the students, 8th graders, get here, they'll have a tremendous experience. They'll have faculty who are deeply committed and who really want to see them succeed and take a personal interest in them. In addition to that, they'll be getting advice, because we know students some still will go off to a vocational program. It's about making sure that they understand what that could lead to 4 years, 5 years from now, and making informed decisions. And we're confident that if they were here, our guidance department would be able to better help them with that decision. It's going to increase access to our most rigorous courses. It's going to allow OMS to enhance the delivery of their intervention and enrichment opportunities. And again, the one-to-one initiative is a critical component of this reconfiguration, and it's going to help us ensure that all students develop 21st century skills and have access to 21st century technology. And I know that was a lot, so we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Spitz?
Just a question I haven't seen mentioned in here at all. What's going to be the physical cost to the district to move the 8th grade up to the high school?
The physical cost, you mean in terms of relocating desks and stuff like that?
That whole cost package, yes.
So, to be honest with you, that would be work that we would look to have done over the summer when the custodians are already working. Another way I've seen other districts handle stuff like that is to get volunteer. We always have student groups who are looking to do volunteer work. So I don't think there's a tremendous cost there if we're smart in how we do it.
Mr. Coonan?
Thank you. First question I have, has to deal with the, out of its contractually, where it looks like we have 146 right now in the 8th grade, 145 planned, so like you said, roughly 150 students. What's the average teacher, or is a maximum teacher that they have for student ratios or students that they see every day? Course load?
So current 8th graders, and Mr. Cannacchioli, you correct me if I'm wrong, but current 8th graders, there are 6 sections of roughly 25 students per section, and they travel for the most part in teams, or?
No, they have individual schedules currently, so, I mean, depending on the placement of students in particular classrooms, it's probably between 23 and 27.
Okay, and then, so, what I'm saying, is there a maximum course load that teachers have?
So you're talking about teaching course load?
Teaching students in front of teachers.
So contractually, teachers are obligated to receive 1 prep period per day.
Okay, but there's no maximum number of students.
No.
Okay. So one teacher may have like 120 students that they're responsible for grading, another one may have 140, 150. There's no maximum number of that.
Correct, right.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then I did have another one. On the 8th grade, on the transcripts, and maybe Mr. Cannacchioli could hit how it's addressed now when we go to the high school. Will those students in 8th grade, are their grades reported to the colleges if they take algebra, or in this case, in the proposed world language classes? Will that go into the transcript?
So if they're here in the building, we would put it on their high school transcript. So yes, if they were in Spanish 1, for example, and they earned an A, that Spanish 1 would be reported on their transcript. If they're earning high school credit, then it goes on their high school transcript.
And this year, we actually just did a middle school transcript that for especially students who are trying to choice out to a different school. Before, we had to do it where it'd be a report card for the last 4 years. So we just created a middle school transcript. What we do is we denote the middle school courses separate from the high school courses. So all the middle school courses would show on the middle school transcript. All the high school courses would show on the high school transcript.
Okay. So I'm just trying to play this through my mind, and we're back to world language. If the 8th graders were here and they took a Spanish 1, as opposed if we put foreign language over into the middle school, they could maybe take Spanish 1, Spanish 2, but when they came to high school, they would take Spanish 1 again? I'm just trying to look at the difference in overlap or preparedness.
So we wouldn't, we certainly would not have a student repeat a course they've already successfully passed. The advantage of having them at the high school as opposed to the middle school is that the high school, we already have a world language department with three teachers, and so there's room within that to expand the, some of the world language sections are, because it's not a graduation requirement yet, not every single student takes world language. Okay. So we have some room within the existing schedule to add world language sections.
So I guess just to answer my question, if a student came here in 8th grade, there could be a potential, if there was student interest in teacher availability, to take through Spanish 5.
Yeah, so that's exactly. So in 8th grade, they'd come up, they would take Spanish 1 as an 8th grader, Spanish 2 as a 9th, Spanish 3 as a 10th, Spanish 4 as an 11th, and then AP Spanish, where if they pass the test, they'd earn, college credits potentially for it. So that would be the goal, yes.
All right. That's just questions I have now. I have concerns, but questions later, that's fine.
Mrs. Griffin?
I think it's a creative way, and I applaud you for trying to be creative and thinking outside the box to expand foreign language for our students. But I kind of have some grave concerns because I feel like it wouldn't be the equivalent education of a student at a middle school, for example, starting their foreign language career and then getting to have the Spanish 1, for example, again, up here at the high school, where they would review and develop their skills and not necessarily, meet the requirement, but really have an education underneath their belt. And I'm all about supporting things that make our district better, but truly better. And I feel like if we have a need for foreign language, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it would be nice to see it start in the middle school, but move its way up where these kids would really be having I feel like meeting the requirements and getting the full education. So I have some concerns because I feel like budget-wise, we're trying to give these kids an opportunity. I see that. But I don't know if it would be the full delivery of the curriculum like other districts are really doing it.
So I think and maybe it wasn't spelled out enough, I think that there would be a few different options.
Right.
Because I certainly think that there's a group of students who would benefit from an exploratory type world language experience, which is what you see typically in the middle school. So we would look to have that for some students, but for some of our advanced students who are ready to take on this academic challenge, I would absolutely encourage them to go right into the World Language 1, which is where our ninth graders start anyhow. So I don't think that they'd be at any disadvantage to our current ninth graders. They'd just be a year younger than our current ninth graders.
Speaking kind of along the same line with the Algebra 1 course, what would the vision be for ninth grade? What would their track be after they get out of the 8th grade Honors Academy there?
So they'd go, that's a conversation we've started to have already. Currently, we have, as I mentioned, at the middle school, we have 2 sections who are in 100% Algebra 1. Those students come over into the 9th grade and they take honors geometry, and then they take honors Algebra 2 as sophomores, and then as juniors they take either pre-calculus honors or some of them elect to take trigonometry. It depends where they see their 4th year of math going. The highest math we offer is AP Calculus, and we have a number of students there, and Mr. Craig certainly does an absolutely great job with them, and we've had solid results in our AP Calculus program, and also the same can be said for our AP Statistics program.
I'd love to see like the course offerings presented. That's the one component that I feel is missing in tonight's presentation, is really seeing all this really planned out with those, possible offerings being here on the plate. I know that it would help me make a better decision.
If I could, I think it's recognized, Ms. Griffin, that there's additional work that has to be done,
Right.
and additional planning, but this is a significant project, and we would be happy to present, the typical course outline or program of studies for the student who goes into the 8th grade academy, but we would need a little more time to do that. We can't wait on a decision to move forward much longer than tonight.
So my reservation is, we're being told to kind of move forward and go forward,
Or continue what we've always done.
or continue what we've always done. And I want to see us make growth, but I don't want us to rush without having adequate plans. And I love this idea. I think that this is fantastic. Personally, I'm hesitant because I feel like there's a lot of very meaningful conversations to still continue before we say this is ready to go for the fall. That's just my feeling.
Mr. Coonan?
With all due respect to the hard work that Ms. Griffin and Ms. Tar on that committee, and they've put this forward, and they've definitely brought some urgency to this. And I do hear the sense of urgency from administrators, from our superintendent, and I hear this totally. However, and I'm not going to sit up here and I'm not going to throw holes in anyone's plan, because you guys are working your tails off, very short-staffed, to get this done. I want to see it work. I do want to see it work. I'd like to see fully planned out with parental meetings to be able to start the following fall. Do they have teachers go through a year like, hey, I know this is coming. I want to plan my lessons. I want this to work, instead of saying, oh, okay, here's the book. In 10 weeks into the year, that's nice. And then some teachers I know are going to go over the summer and they're going to work very hard to get their lessons ready. Some may not. And it doesn't make it a good teacher or a bad teacher. Everyone has their own circumstances. I personally, right now, like I said, and I don't want to throw any holes in it, I'd like to see this planned out a year, parental meetings come through to work out the fine details, because this is going to be an incredible selling point to the community. From back from Chairman Spitz, when Bill was the chair, when we reconfigured the schools. It went through and people fought it and fought it and fought it. It's not going to work. And really, it didn't work. For some people, and some different, it's a differing opinion. I don't know how the rest of the committee feels. I know Mrs. Ennis is in here, where we go for that, but I don't want to throw holes in any plans. So I want to make this work, and I want it to go out and to work every glitch out before this happens. And I think just time, and really to get staff on board, get students on board, to create an excitement and buzz of where we're going. It's not just, oh, okay, and where's and I get the elbow in the grocery store, another one at church, of, yeah, okay, they're running around in elementary, so they're just bumping the 8th graders up. No, it's a deeper picture than this. And not to force feed anyone anything, to really let parents see, here's the big plan. And I know there's a sense of urgency to try and get this done, and you guys are working your tails off. Right now, I just want to absorb it and go through.
Mr. Spitz?
You know, I have to agree with Mr. Coonan. I think this was well thought out where we are right now. I mean, there's absolutely no question in my mind that this is probably the right direction we should go in. But at the same time, I have concerns educationally as well as the physical move. I still don't know how we're going to get this done physically with volunteers, and it's going to cost the district some money no matter how it lays out. And that's money that I want to have budgeted into the system. I want to make sure that we do have the correct funding in order to physically make these moves. And I think we do have a lot of educational things yet that are not answered in here, which would make me feel a lot better about putting a stamp of approval on it. And I really feel that what you've done so far is excellent. This is great. This is really, it's exciting to see. And of course, this is the first time I've actually seen it laid out, which, you know, I need time to digest that a little bit as well. But going along with Mr. Coonan, I'd love to see course studies. I'd like to see basically what we're going to do for each of the children that come up here from the 8th grade as they move into the high school. So for me, I think that, yes, I know it's something that we need to rush along and get ready for the fall. I personally can't rush it along. I think it's too important for our children to do that. And I'm just a little concerned about our time frames and our timetables. And I want to see this happen without a question of a doubt, but I want to see it happen properly so that when we do go to do this, we're not going to have a lot of glitches and things that you have to come back to the committee with and say, you know, we didn't think of this or we didn't think of this and this isn't working quite right. So I'm for it, but I'm really not yet. It's one of those deals, so that's where I am.
So I have some questions. Does, and it's really based upon feedback from the committee, but does not moving forward with the configuration for the next school year preclude us from moving forward with the one-to-one? And I guess I'll ask that question of the superintendent.
In all honesty, I'm a bit surprised by the conversation tonight, so I hadn't considered that. I don't see why it would have to preclude us from pursuing the one-to-one. The capital outlay exclusion funds have to be spent down by the end of the school year. By the end of the fiscal year, June 30th. So Mr. Spitz's question about the moving, I haven't solidified it. Again, I didn't anticipate this being a concern, but our intent was to start working tomorrow with Mr. Doobie and the custodians to develop the plan, to also reach out to the DPW, who I know I can count on support from. Given the green light, we would make the move happen. It's not a concern for me.
With no additional cost to the district?
That's not a concern. I fully hear your others about the courses and that. Again, given the green light, we would make it work, but I'm just surprised.
some further questions, if I may, Mr. Matar.
Sure.
So, hearing that you've been in touch with some other school districts and whatnot, how long is their average timeline? How about their shortest timeline in kicking off an initiative like this? You can start with shortest.
Shortest timeline, you're looking at the summer, right? You basically found out that at the start of the fiscal budget, July 1st, we have money that we can use to pay for this.
Right.
And then it's a scramble. We've already been in talks, or Ross and I just thinking through how would we go through to
Right.
do this. That's the phases here where we're saying we want to make sure we have everything planned out with the parents, then move on to policy, and so on. It would be tight right now. The reason why we need your go-ahead, if we're getting 450 devices in with a slim technology staff, we have to get those all prepared, all ready to be distributed by the start of the fall. The funds from the capital outlay has to be spent this year. So if we are going to spend that fund, that is probably something we could use it for. Get those extra devices in, we'd be looking at about 250 extra devices coming in. How we would divide that up, that's something we'd have to discuss with the leadership team. But I do think where we are right now, we do have enough time to get those devices set up and explain everything to the parents, get the PD embedded with the staff, and be ready for day one for September.
And Mr. Phillips, would you be delivering all the PD instruction to the staff?
Mostly, yep, in conjunction with our vendors. So our vendors will come in and also help with the PD. But that was also something that Dr. Garceau mentioned, I'd be primarily stationed in this building, so I'd be
Right.
better able to do that.
So, particular apps and thoughts that you had in mind, could the committee receive possibly a list of programs and apps and?
Yeah, so that, again, that's
vendors?
kind of done in conjunction with the teachers, right? So we'd basically go through and say, what's your goal? What are you trying to achieve in your class? Or a certain curriculum materials you're trying to cover. Going through building a bank of resources that we can access, essentially.
Okay. And so, kind of going back to my question before, other districts that you've spoken to, what's the quickest turnaround a district has had to launch a very successful initiative like
A
this?
successful one, then.
I'm talking success.
Yeah,
That's what we want.
Successful is about right now would be the starting point. If we start any later than this, I think it'd be tricky.
I think you're misunderstanding my question. Other districts that have done this, that you've been in touch with,
Yeah.
what was their shortest time frame?
I think so I said the summer was when they started July 1st.
Okay.
And just no staff interaction, staff already left, students already left, so it was just their team trying to get everything together. If we're doing it now, at least we can work in conjunction with the staff, with the parents, with the students to figure out our program.
And what district took that approach?
So we've talked to like Shrewsbury, we've talked to Mendon Upton, Auburn, yeah.
And they kind of launched
And,
it over the summer and gave it to their staff in the fall without?
No, not those districts. We're just talking about in general districts that we've seen that's done that. Yeah, not those districts, no.
Okay.
Mr. Spitz?
Just another question. Can the reconfiguration be done in phases? Like, could we do the Barton Chafee thing? Because I think that is a pretty quick fix and might
Right.
work very well. And do 8th grade to the high school the following year. I mean, can it be done in phases? I think that we've got a good idea. There's no question in my mind that you guys have really come up with a good plan.
Right.
And I think that portion of the plan would be much easier to accomplish and to phase through than this one. This one I still have a lot of reservations about. So this one I think is where the technology really needs to be put in place in enough time. I hear what you're saying, that you have the ability to do that, but again, it's going to be rushed. We're going to be rushing through this to get this done. And that is a big concern for me. I think that the ideas of Chafee and Barton are fantastic, and I fully support that and will support that tonight. I just don't support the whole thing tonight.
So I guess it's up to me. I went into this. I went into this tonight with the mindset of being in support of the whole thing, and My only concern was that I knew that there would be some members of the community that would have some concerns about the 8th grade portion of the reconfiguration. And however, knowing that that would be the case, I did anticipate that it would be more likely than not that the majority of the community would have throw their support behind this, given the work that the reconfiguration team did and the fact that we had a wide cross-section of the school community, including several parents and administrators. And that being said, I know that the timetable is not ideal, but relying upon the input from our educational leaders, our superintendent, our principals, our director of technology, if they're telling me that they can do it, then I'm confident that they can do it. And so
if I could just add one thing that maybe helps your thinking a little bit. If it were not for the one-to-one initiative, I would still be making the recommendation to move grade 8 to the high school. So if it makes it easier for people to think of that as being a separate issue, there's that.
And I do think that we did identify other benefits to the 8th grade, but I only get one vote, so it doesn't sound like the committee is really interested in pursuing that further. But Mr. Coonan.
Thank you, Ms. Pitar. When this first came out, I was definitely in favor, and then now when I see the intricacy of the plan and all the necessary steps to go through, and then also the parental involvement, the 10 weeks in, the Barton Chafee movement, everything on paper, I think it's a good transition, and I think that's a good place for that. And I will be supporting that if we divvy them up. Even the 8th grade or the one-to-one, I'd like to see a good year, because it's a major change to the structure of our schools. And I went back when I was in 8th grade. Yeah, the 8th grade was over there, and parents had the same concerns. Times haven't changed that much. The school's a little bit smaller. I know it's going to work. I just want to give us every reason to say this is the extra steps that we're doing to really work it. And I don't want to, like I said, I'm not throwing holes in anyone's plans. It's a very solid plan, and the work has been extraordinary to get to this stage. Now just the fine details, as Mr. Tebow said. We can work them out, a good year to plan, market it. I'll be the first in school committee to market this plan over the summer. This is where we're going. This is going to be the future of Oxford Public Schools. And we're going to do it, and we're going to do it right.
So I have a question for the superintendent.
Yes.
Does it make sense, in your opinion, would you like a vote on the Barton Chafee move now, or would you prefer to wait and see what comes of the override request? Because obviously, with the present operating budget without the override, there is no opening of classrooms.
Correct. And so 2 weeks after town meeting would be the ballot question on the override, and that would be too late to make the move. So I think my recommendation tonight would be that you seek a separate motion for the elementary reconfiguration than the high school, and at least let us get started on that work.
And then we obviously now have a decision to make in terms of the spending the capital funds. Is that something that those funds need to be spent by the end of the fiscal year? Otherwise, I'm not sure. Does that get returned to the town's general fund?
Jay?
Donna, do you know the answer to that question? If the outlay exclusion is not spent down by the end of the fiscal year, what happens to it?
I can cover it if you have spending on it and getting it.
Okay.
Okay. So
We'd have to
it
develop
can-
a plan to do that.
So it could potentially be encumbered.
You
Mr.
could flip it and get, you had 2 years leased, the older years leased, reverse it and put the younger, the grade 8 year lease in the future. and use it to buy the older grades?
So
We would-
there's,
Oh, I'm sorry. We
I-
wouldn't be launching the initiative.
so I think there's some further discussion that needs to happen outside of the meeting regarding that piece of it. So we'll, but Mr. Spitz, did you have a?
Well, I did, but you kind of answered it a little.
Okay. So, I would like to entertain a motion to approve moving the second grade from the A.M. Chafee School to the Clara Barton School, effective the 2016-2017 school year.
So moved.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Sorry.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So let the record show that that motion passes with 4 in the affirmative and 1 absent. And based upon the feedback from the committee this evening, I don't feel it necessary to take any further motions on this topic at this point in time. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you,
and-
gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
I do think, I will just say, though, that, you know, the committee did express a desire to keep the work moving on this, just not for the next school year, so
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
hearing more.
If you wanted a motion tonight to continue the work, that, the understanding that we want to accept that, I think just to build a vote of confidence that we have in the plan.
I think
there's
that makes
nothing wrong
sense.
with-
If you'd
There's
like-
nothing wrong with the plan.
Yeah, if you'd like to make that motion.
So, Mr. Chairman, I so move that the committee support the initiatives with the anticipated condition for the 2017, 2018 school year. Did I miss a year?
We have a motion,
So moved.
moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Let the record show that it passes 4 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Mr. Spitz?
I'm still, I really am still confused on one thing. I don't understand why we couldn't do the one-on-one initiative anyways and spend the money on the high school and do the Chromebooks for, why would that change whether we do the move or not from the 8th grade up?
I don't think that it necessarily does, but the feedback that I thought I was hearing, at least, correct me if I'm wrong, was that Mr. Coonan and Mrs. Griffin felt as though it was premature to implement for the next school year. Is that for the Chromebook piece of it?
Not necessarily just the Chromebook piece of it. I really feel like it's the move without understanding how everything would be structured. I think that the technology piece is something good to see, but I'm a little concerned with how it would be rolled out as far as the delivery to teachers. I know we have to get the technology. I'm in support of getting the technology on board, but I don't want the teachers to feel, or anybody, the kids to feel as well, kind of that everything isn't set in stone with the curriculum and the delivery of the curriculum with the new technology. I think things have to be in stages, kind of like get the technology maybe in people's hands, get them comfortable, let them have a year to go through it, and then let's talk about having some new initiatives with the 8th graders moving to the high school. It's a lot to take on, a curriculum change and a technology piece in 1 year. That's just my feeling. I don't think it's unfeasible, though, to have the technology slowly roll out, but coupled with new teachers teaching new courses, or, I mean, I still don't know who would be teaching the courses or what, or,
The 8th grade teachers would be teaching the 8th grade students.
so they'd move up here.
They'd be in a different building.
Okay. That was not clear to me at all.
Okay.
It's that simple, really.
Does that change your opinion on the move piece at all? I mean, it doesn't sound like there was consensus anyways among the committee. So, but from what I heard, it did sound as though there's the possibility that a motion may be successful. So let's just throw it out and see what happens. And I'd like to entertain a motion to pilot a one-to-one technology initiative at the Oxford High School for the 2016-2017 school year.
I'm going to go with that. So moved.
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, moved and seconded, discussion? Mr. Coonan?
Yeah, and what would be your definition of a pilot? Be a small cohort? No, we're not going to obviously go with the whole ninth grade.
Right.
You maybe, and not at the start of the year, when we're ready, halfway through the year, or some point when the teachers say in a small group of team, hey, let's work together. But then again, the advantage, what I heard in the eighth grade plan, they all have the same teachers. In the ninth grade, I don't believe they're all going to have the same teachers. Or there could be something with creative scheduling. If there is a plan for that, I would totally support it. 1 or 2 classes, fine. I don't think we're ready for the whole initiative. Just mail it out.
And what I'm hearing from the administration is that it's something that we certainly, say they have the time to put together. I think for the building, but the concern, I think your concern and a well-made concern is that getting the devices in the hands of the teachers and getting them to update how they teach, to integrate that. I do think that it would take some time to work all of that out. But if we have the ability to put the devices in the students' hands and level the playing field for students that don't have access to that technology, I don't see the downside to putting that technology to use in the next school year. That's my opinion, and understanding that there is going to be a period of time in which teachers are going to have to get comfortable with it, students are going to have to get comfortable with it, there's going to be additional training. Mrs. Griffin, you seem to have some...
I'm just hesitant because I don't know the plan for the training, and I don't know the who's going to run and use this technology right off the bat, and who's going to be hesitant. And I know in every district it's different, but I mean I've lived this, and I've seen one-to-one initiatives be launched, and it's a labor of love, and it takes some really good planning. And you are one amazing man, I will give you that, but I find it hard for one person, God bless you, to do so much, and that's a little bit where I have some hesitancy. If I knew we had some additional funds and we could get you some more staff, and I knew that there was a way to really have a clone of you in a whole bunch of places, I'd feel a little bit more confident right now. I think that's part of where
Who are you addressing?
excuse me, Mr. Phillips.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I just wanted to
Sorry, I
clarify.
should have clarified that.
Oh, sorry.
But it's hard, if I know what it's like because we have somebody very similar to you in the district I work in. And it's hard for, certain individuals to do so many jobs, and you wear a lot of hats. And I just know that to make things like this successful, there needs to be multiple people like you. And that's just where I have a little bit of a hesitancy. I feel like it would be putting an awful lot of strain on you and the teachers as well, because I'm sure they'll band together and help each other. That's what wonderful teachers like ours do. But it's a lot to take on the first initiative. So if it was kind of like the teachers could kind of go through some of this first initially before the students, I'd feel a little bit better. Having both kind of learn at the same time is a little bit difficult.
Mr. Spitz?
This is just a little tag on to that. And if we can't roll out the entire one-on-one, that's totally cool, because it might be a rush job. But if we have the equipment available, you could do it as the school year goes through.
Yes, exactly.
And that's kind of my point in that whole process, that if we spend the money and because if our intent is to get it on Chromebooks, what is the problem if we spend the money now, get the Chromebooks, let him do it at his pace, get it out to the school in segments then? I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I just think that rather than encumbering the money and finding out down the road that we can't do that, and that money has to be returned to the general fund, if our intent is to do exactly what we have on this little sheet here, I don't understand why the equipment couldn't be here to do it, and do it as we could throughout the year.
Right, and I guess the point of my wording the motion as a pilot was to, be indicative of the fact that I wouldn't necessarily be looking for this to be off the ground, up and running on the Tuesday after Labor Day, understanding that this would take some time. But that being said, if the administration wanted to move this or start distributing these Chromebooks to students, in October, as they see fit, I think that we should allow them to do that. So again, that was my purpose for calling it a pilot. I don't think the expectation would be, get them ready for that Tuesday after Labor Day.
It was never our intention. It was never our intention. We discussed just last week the idea of providing the training throughout the early fall, distributing them to students sometime in the mid to later fall, and rolling it out that way. Again, we have worked on this for a couple of months. I know time is short, but if we did not, and if these gentlemen didn't feel like they could do this, I wouldn't be presenting it this evening. Whatever the committee decides to do, we will make work. I didn't anticipate that the committee would be so embedded in the planning of this, but it is so.
I think, Mr. Bitar, through you to Dr. Garso, a lot of this is all new to us because this is the first time we've seen this tonight. We know we've heard you talk about it, so I think that's why we have so many questions.
Sure.
As far as our infrastructure goes with our Wi-Fi and whatnot, can we handle so many devices? And if teachers are on, say, 2 adjoining classrooms, and they have one of those Aero Hives and the devices sometimes pick up to another teacher's, is there a way I have some...
So
Yeah.
a lot of the money from the capital this year was spent to address that. So we went through, we upgraded all the switches across. We changed our wireless system here to AeroHive completely. Will we experience growing pains? There is always a chance, and then we may have to tweak our system a little bit, but I'm confident it's set up to work right now.
Okay. If the growing pains do occur, which they probably will, how much would it cost the district to kind of throw in some more Aero Hives if need be, or things like that to beef up our Wi-Fi?
It's about $400 a device.
A device, okay.
And they're basically spread out right now strategically across the building for coverage. So that's exactly how we'd address it. We'd basically be plugging in new devices in areas where they're weaker signal. And with the upgrades we did this year, we're able to do that now.
So you've built all that?
Yeah, it's all, yep.
Okay.
Yep. And as Dr. Garso said, it's been a sequential process, right? We started with the infrastructure, with the money we had from the capital, and then we did the instructional tech with the teachers, so all the interactive projectors and so on. But now the next step is getting the technology in the hands of the students. So that's what this proposal is about, really closing that loop with the technology we have in place.
And could you just speak to why Chromebooks as opposed to any other device?
We're a Google school. That's the first thing. Google Apps. So the support there is it's pretty integrated what we're doing there, and it does come in cheaper. One problem we also find is just startup time. So with a computer or a laptop, it takes a minute, 2 minutes to really get online. Chromebook, you part it up, and it's right there. iPads, we do have iPads at the elementary school, for the tactile, they prefer those, but as we start dealing with productivity, a lot of papers, a lot of writing, Chromebooks seem to be a good device for that.
They are excellent.
We have a motion on the floor.
We do. We have a motion and a second. Are we prepared to take the vote? All those in favor, please.
Please read the motion back, Ken, please. What was the motion?
The motion was somewhat to the effect of approving one-to-one technology initiative to pilot at the high school for the 2016-2017 school year.
All grades?
It's a pilot. I think the implementation of the pilot would be, again, up to the administration to determine how they want to roll that out. Of course, we would want to hear back from them and get reports, but yes.
if I may. Yeah, it's a tricky motion because I'm not going to be ready to mandate this if no one's ready for it. If the administrators think that, yeah, there's someone ready here and there, that's great, but I'm not going to be voting in favor of this one tonight. I don't want to mandate that policy yet.
How would we get a feeling that the staff is ready and that people feel ready for this? I mean,
I'm not even concerned about them being ready at
No.
all. I'm concerned about purchasing the product. It can sit in a closet for all I care, and they can use it. No, but I'm just saying, they can use it as they
Sit in a
can
closet.
throughout the year. You know, that's really what I'm talking about here, that the product is here for them to do it. Like, say if they decide they want to go through the 9th grade and do that next week. Well, the product is here for them to use to do that. But if it's not, well, guess what? They can't do it according to what they'd like to do. I'm more concerned that we utilize the funds that we say that we're going to use the funds for anyways, which are Chromebooks. The Chromebooks can be here, and they can do it as they see fit. So that's giving them whatever option they want to utilize these Chromebooks for, it gives them that option. But they're here, and they're in their hands, and they can use them at any time. That's really my point here. I just want to make sure that the product is bought so that we don't find ourselves not being able to get them when we do go to roll this out.
Same with me. Yeah, in response to that, Mr. Spitz, absolutely correct. Just like we have now with the Chromebooks that were bought for the World Language Department.
Right.
I like that. That works. There's no mandate from us how they see best fit educationally to their building that they
That's
want to run it. That's all I need. And that might be a great way to roll it out. That I don't want to see a mandate every 9th grader is going to get one next year. That's what I'm trying to avoid. What I want to encourage is, like Mr. Spitzer said, you have a teacher, I want to do this with my class, a department. We want to bring this challenge to our department. That's wonderful. Let's just do it. That's great. If they're ready to go, they're on board. Mr. Phil said, hey, this is ready to go. Have the tools in hand, go do it. I really, thank you for bringing that clarification, Mr. Spitz. This is exactly where I would like to see us for right now.
So,
Then go
with
forward
that.
with it.
so Mr. Coonan.
I'm in agreement with that. I'm a little hesitant with every teacher feeling like they have to
They don't.
do it.
That's
Okay.
what I don't want to mandate, that's all.
I don't want to mandate it at all. These are the pros. Let them make those decisions.
So, Mr. Coonan, if you feel as though the motion that I made would be mandating it, would you like to amend?
I'd like to
make a
amend it
motion
to
to
keep
amend the motion on the floor?
The status quo and keep the administration in the building for the teachers, administrators, and students, that they see what's best for their students as approved through the departments, however they want to do it, that have the resources available for them.
Okay.
So I guess the motion would be that I would so move that we make could the additional Chromebooks available for staff?
Be purchased.
Be purchased for staff and student use as seen fit by administration.
Beautiful.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Records show that the amended motion passes with 4 in the affirmative. Next up, we have an update. The committee has requested an update on the response to the best practices review. Dr. Garceau, is that you? or
Actually, if I
Dawn?
could have Ms. Folio speak to that. She's engaged in that work currently.
Good evening.
Hi. Excuse me. So, the beginning of March, I met with 2 people from the school side and 1 person from the town in the area of HR and payroll, and then that's my orange team. And I had a black team of 2 people from the school side and 1 person from the town side doing the AP side to address a lot of these control issues that were brought up. They are now working together in their separate teams, and they're going to all come back to me probably the middle of April and update me as to where we stand. There are some areas I think I have to cover myself that really kind of outside those 2 areas. So that's my plan. At that point, once I have everything together, I want to go with the superintendent and town manager to make sure they're comfortable with the responses that we have and the controls that we're putting in place. Then I would like to have Ron Smith, who did the best practice review, as well as KPMG, who does our audit review, to make sure it's to their specifications as well, and then come back before the board and present it to you as these are the resolve to those issues.
Do you think, when do you anticipate that you would be ready to present that back?
Well, if we get back the middle of April, I'm hoping I want it to be in place by July 1st. That's my goal. Because for KPMG, they audit based on those internal controls. So I'd like to have it set, it's in place for July 1st, so we all know what we need to do.
So you would then anticipate coming before the committee sometime in June?
Yes.
Would if you're meeting with, if you're getting that information from those teams around the middle of April, do you think it would be possible to at least provide us with some more information at the April 25th meeting? Certainly not the the full plan, because it sounds like there'll still be some more work to do, but at least
I can give you
an
another
update.
update.
I did make a commitment at that meeting when Mr. Smith was present with the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee that this would be a recurring agenda item until the final report or final response is ready. So I would like to have the committee hear regular updates if we could plan on doing that on April 25th.
Okay.
Do any of the committee members have any questions for Mrs. Folio about that? I guess the last thing I'll say is I understand, to the best of my knowledge, that most of the items in that report had been addressed in some form or fashion already. Can you provide us with some type of assurance that the business office is, functioning in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles and in accordance with any laws in our contracts?
I can tell you that this year was a really interesting experience that I've had. The amount of changes and the amount of hands and the amount of people that need to know when things happen. And it happens rapidly at the beginning of the school year. Darlene, I keep telling her my head spins like the exorcism because I don't know who's on first at any given moment, but we're working on making sure there's a job description, there's an intent to hire, that the budget person knows that you're hiring someone and the payroll person knows and they're onboarded through HR. So we had that piece they had already been working on, having knowledge that there was some issues. Some of the other things we're trying to fine tune is to make sure that there is a scope of service that defines what is expected if somebody gets a stipend and what that amount is and what they need to do for that. On the payable side, there were some scattered policies in place, internal controls, but there's also internal controls at the accounting office. So when it got to the accounting office on the town side, they had to comply with certain things. But we want to consolidate that so it's a smooth transition over. The town is also going to go through the best practice review. I believe next week they'll start doing that. But some of the things we were talking about, federal grants had a different threshold for purchasing. So we're going to change some of the requisition. When it needs a requisition, it's going to be a little different for federal grants. It's been a good product. Both groups, my orange and my black teams, have had both productive meetings because having two people from the school side knowing what the issues are and knowing the hurdles that they have to jump, and then having the one person from the town side that can say, oh, I did that, this is how we resolve that, or, oh, I have that same problem too. It's been very helpful to get them together. So we are working on it. Some of the things that I was working on, like the fund balance policy, reviewing the financial policy of the town to include the special ed contingency fund, to include that actually as a documented item. So I am also already working on that. And it had been a couple of years since we reviewed the financial policy, so it was time to review, especially with the new town manager.
In the, is the special education department represented in either of your teams? Because there were a couple line items that were specific to special education.
No, we have Kathy and Darlene and Heather on the orange team, and the black team is Nada, Denise, and Teresa from my office. And what I've told them to do is when you come to something that you need input from another department, like special ed, or maybe the treasurer, or for cash handling, to go and meet with those people and pick their brains as to what you can do. I want something that everybody is comfortable with, because the biggest thing is to make sure that you
Bless you.
follow through with those controls that are in place, compliance. But if you're part of making those rules, you'll feel comfortable making the compliance.
And I'll just ask our superintendent, a couple of the things that were glaring in the report was that there weren't always consistent sign-offs on out-of-district placement IEPs, and also the use of signature stamps
Right.
in the special education office. Can you just update us as to where we stand?
Those have both been addressed. There were no stamps being used, and in fact, I was signing out-of-district contracts just today.
Thank you so much.
Director Giangorio has also been really adamant with our vendors about making sure that we have contracts on file from them. So she's tracked those down as well.
One of the issues with, and I don't like stamps, I know that some people do have them. I happen to have a stamp for purchase orders that goes through the computer when the purchase order is produced. My signature stamp goes on it, as well as the treasurer when a check is produced. Their signature stamp goes on it. As far as individual stamps, my stamp is now at home with me. It doesn't get used and hasn't been for some time. It was a different world 20 years ago. Things are different now.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your work in addressing the items in that
problem.
report. The next order of business is the Proposition 2.5 override and the determination of priorities and dollar amounts. So we have a document in our packets that was provided by the administration. In large part, it was these were items that we had discussed during our budget workshops, and these were things that the principals and/or superintendent had recommended in the preliminary budget and had to come out so that we could present a balanced budget, which we'll be presenting shortly. So we do have this list of items that we want to consider for the override. Before we, I guess, get into it, I don't know, Dr. Garso, do you want to address any of this, or?
No, actually, this list was generated primarily at the direction of the committee during our budget hearings. There were a number of unfunded priorities that were moved to a list as we went through that work. And that's what this list represents, and some additional requests from the administration based on what the principals thought were priorities in their buildings.
So in order to facilitate the discussion, I guess what I'd like to do is just quickly go through these items and get a sense from the committee their thoughts about including or excluding these particular items in the override request, and then we can move from there. So the first, which I will start by saying I think is the most important, is the elementary classroom teachers. We'd be looking at adding one per grade level from at grades K through 4. I think that would get the support of the committee. look for nods. The reading specialists, 1.5 at the middle school and 1 each at Barton and Chaffey is, in terms of a priority.
Actually, Mr. Matar, I do have a question.
Mr. Coonan?
Dr. Garceau made it brought to our attention earlier as part of the move is a space constraint. Do we have space to house these
We do.
teachers within there?
We do.
With the reconfiguration,
Yes.
correct?
With that reconfiguration?
With the reconfiguration of the second
Barton
grade.
would then be at capacity, they would be tight, but yes. The principal and I walked around the other day and looked at the facilities ourselves.
Thank you.
STEM teacher, specialist to be split between Chaffey and Barton. I think that's important. Is the committee in agreement generally? Okay. The computer teacher, also shared between Chaffey and Barton. I believe the librarian is currently doing double duty. Is that something that the committee would like to see added back in? Yes. The instructional aides, 1 per classroom for each kindergarten at Chaffey. I think that this is important, but it's a large number overall. And if we can get back to 7 sections of kindergarten and lower that class size, I think personally I would like to see us hold this one off. But I don't know how the rest of the committee feels, Mr. Spitz.
I think that we do need some instructional aids added. Maybe it doesn't have to be the 7 number, but I think especially in the younger grades, I really think the focus needs to be on them for instructional aids to have, help in the classroom. Maybe it doesn't need to be the 7, maybe it needs to be 4.
Would you be okay with me calling Mrs. Parmalee just to get her opinion on
I'm
this?
sorry?
Would you be okay with us asking Mrs.
Sure,
Parmalee?
yeah, absolutely.
Mrs. Parmalee, would you be willing to just come up for a moment to talk about the instructional aids for the kindergarten? We have a number of 7 instructional aids, and then it's a rather large number, $385,000 is the
Right, I
budget
believe
impact.
we had relooked at that and had reduced that down to 3.
That's cool.
Well, we can.
Well, 3, well, if we were to go for the override, we would want 7. Obviously, that's the dream. We would
Well,
love to.
in the operating budget, I don't think you had any other than special ed, correct?
Correct.
Well, we were trying to be creative in how we could fund at least a couple of .5s by some of the creative changes that we had brought up at one of our budget workshops.
3 would be $165,000 as opposed to the 385.
Is that, Donna, do you,
They had, in the creativity of Robin, we had put in .5 in each of the kindergarten, and that would have been at 6 levels.
so you had 3, you had 6.5s,
6.5s additional.
and you have that in this current budget that's about to be presented? So in order to get 1 aide per classroom, we'd be looking for, that's 3, we'd be looking for 4 additional IAs, is that correct?
Or if we change these to be .5s instead of wholes, you can half that number. That plus added to the .5 that's in here would make them a whole.
Okay.
I personally would like to make a motion that we accept all this as being needed for the override. For me, it's really hard to sit here and
Say who's important and who's not.
yeah, I feel like to deliver the quality education that we need to give our students, this is what we need. And this is basically, correct me if I'm wrong, restoring what we took away,
Well, not in all cases.
except
but-
for maybe the reading specialist. And I guess that's why I feel very strongly about this. It's to put back what we've already taken away from our students. And I'd
I
like
guess
to make a motion that this is what we look for in the override.
Well,
That's,
We have a motion, do we have a second? The motion does not carry. So, because there are a few things in here that I think we should consider taking out. There's concerns about going for an override that's near $3 million. It's almost certainly guaranteed to fail. I think that, in my opinion, what I'd be looking to do is to present what I think is would bring us to adequate levels, let us get to where we need to be, and over time, some of these additional items our funding as the school district improves and people move into town, perhaps the tax base will increase, maybe the state will finally start funding Chapter 70 more completely, and that will allow some of these additional items to come to fruition. But I would like to be respectful of the taxpayers in hopes that they will support us. Dr. Gressel?
Just a point that I should have made earlier, Chairman, is most of these are positions, but the last two items I think do need to be considered as well. Part of the reason the district has had the difficulties it's had, and we've discussed this at length, is that we've used circuit breaker, which is to be used to reimburse us for unanticipated special ed costs as a budgeting tool. And we need to get off of that. We need to get off that addiction to the circuit breaker funds. And so the recommendation is that any override include the elimination of the reliance on circuit breaker, and that's what's represented there in the $280,000. There's also the issue of the UGA uncertainty. I think it's been made clear by the town manager that should the CPA fail at the ballot box in May, he's going to be in a position of needing to pull back additional UGA funds in coming years. So I think that needs to be accounted for in any override as well, because a considerable percentage of our funding has come from that, and if the town manager pulls that back, that's going to be less money that we have to work with. So I think that needs to be figured into any ask.
Mr. Spitz?
The next one for me is the foreign language teachers at OMS. I could drop and be happy with that whole, between the IAs and foreign language, to me, I could drop all of that and live without it. We talked about the assistant principal for Chafee not really being necessary with this move. You okay with that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so for me, foreign language is a big deal, and not having it at the middle school is a really big deal to me. I think that's, to me, that's a necessity. I don't know how everybody else feels about that.
I'm in agreement.
So could we just, before we move on, though, I just want to get clarity on what the ask is for the IAs. So the present budget has 6.5s, so 6 half-time IAs. Do we wish to add only one additional half-time IA, or would we rather be looking to increase that
You have
to 7?
one that's already in there, I believe, and there's 6 new that we're adding. So you do have 7.
Can you talk into the mic, please?
That's what Dr. Gasso figured out, 3 would be that dollar amount.
So we have
You have 1 IA now, that's
one
0.5
full-time?
No, 0.5.
1.5, okay.
And then we added 6 0.5s. That would cover you for 0.5 and all the 7 if you're adding that extra grade. So you could theoretically cut that 7 in half and do 7.5s on the override and then end up with 7 full-time.
And that would be to make them full-time IAs. What is the committee sense in terms of those kindergarten IAs? Are we looking to increase those to full-time, or?
I feel so.
So, yes.
No, Mr. Chairman, with these right here, we're splitting hairs, we're splitting positions.
I feel the same thing.
If you really have to look at our bottom line, in my opinion, is to the sheet that, I don't know if Dr. Garceau provided with us, where it came from, is to get to a number that we need that's affordable to the taxpayer. whatever we ask for. You know, if the average house, I think, is about 2.25, so we max out to the bottom of over 400,000, yeah, you're asking people to put their bills up $425. We really have to look at that number, and I don't walk in their shoes, I'm not in their buildings, and I can't say, well, we need this teacher or this aide to this aide, and that's really how our budget was derived, was coming to workshops.
Right.
If we can get to a number that we think that we can pass,
Well,
I mean, in my opinion, I know I voted against it, but any number is going to be a tough sell.
no, understood. And
Not to sell so short either.
the feedback that I was hearing from members of the community is that for them to even consider this, they would want this breakdown. So that's why, I rather than pick a number and back into it, I'd rather just kind of quickly prioritize. I know we're only on like the fourth one, but if I could just get a sense from the committee, your thoughts on the IA, and then I think we can move on to some more pressing.
I personally think that support for the teachers, I have no problem supporting additional IAs in classrooms, especially in the younger grades. I mean, to me, that they're critical in making sure that these classroom sizes stay manageable.
I think that this is, personally, I think this is an area where if we have half-time coverage in each of the rooms, it's not ideal, but it's better than what we presently have. And I think that we can continue to make it work, especially with smaller kindergarten class sizes. But
I don't feel that way. I mean, I feel like to deliver the best education to our kids, and it's not the best. I'm saying what's comparable to other communities. I'm not like the best, like we're going to be better than other people. We're just going to be comparable to our counterparts. I feel like we need that.
okay.
So, if we're going for an override, in my opinion, we're doing it to give our kids what other communities have.
So with the additional aids, I'm sorry, what was the dollar figure?
If you take the 385 and you half it, so 100 and
So 192.5.
192.5 would get, and that way you add that to the halves that are already in the budget.
Okay.
From 1.0.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just a point of, just clarification. Does this have to be done this evening?
Yes.
We need this for this evening because, and I understand why you wanted to have your budget workshop on this. Last Thursday was a holiday and a lot of us were unavailable. Because again, I don't know if we can get into a working session with them and let them work out in a war room situation of here's the money and then prioritize it. Again, from that level, I don't want to legislate up here and say, you're only going to get this and you're only going to get this. I'm not sure where these fell on their priority list, back to the administrators. And that if we're cutting things out to eliminate, we don't know what's needed, what's extra.
Well, and again, I understand
Good point.
completely where you're coming from. We are up against a time
welcome.
crunch. And, these are things that the administration has already told us that they need, but they could, they can make do without, given the balance, the budget that we needed to balance. So,
I guess from my own personal standpoint, my priorities are going to come on the greatest impact of one-on-one instruction, something that's going to impact the classroom. And I will also, to add to that, I think it's important for our side is either the business manager or full-time or assistant superintendent for teaching and learning as well. That would be my priorities because then again, that has a trickle-down effect. I know it's an administrative job at $125,000. My personal choice would be assistant superintendent for teaching and learning, but where it goes from there.
okay, so we're at the aids, and then moving down, if it pleases the committee, let's see, we have the foreign language at OMS, computer teacher at OMS. The next three items, I would recommend holding for now: the technology integration coach, an additional guidance counselor, and reestablishing a dean of students.
I feel like, Mr. Bitar, technology integration coach would be a necessity at this point with the new technology being on board, in my opinion. I don't know.
Mr. Spitz or Mr. Coonan, your feelings on that?
On the coach,
Yes.
would that individual be worked out of Mr. Phillips' department? Would it be under his discretion, or would it be, is it at a district-wide position?
It would
Or is that what we're looking at a,
At the high school.
only at the high school?
If I could, I mean, if the choice is going to be between a technology integration coach and a dean of students, the priority is a dean of students at the high school.
Personally, I was not going with either of those. But
But this is what we have to hear.
Right.
Excuse me if I was take back from our superintendent has these to help prioritize back
Right.
what's best to move the district if we're looking for numbers. I mean, this is their day-to-day administration on what they see as best fit for this. And I'll definitely defer to that all day long. If we could rank it, I don't know what we can cut.
Dr. Garceau, is that something that you absolutely would wish to see in here?
The dean of students, yes.
Okay, it's in.
Computer science teacher at the high school, I think, again, would need to be in. Are we in agreement about leaving out the technology integration coach at this point? Okay. And then we get into business manager. Is that something that we'd like to see in?
I'm going to really have to agree with Mr. Coonan on this one. I'd like to see the assistant superintendent for teaching and learning versus a business manager. We're not going to be able to afford both no matter how we split this. And I think that person is much more important to coordinate the educational end of the as well, for me anyways.
My feeling on it is that it was made very clear to us that we don't have sufficient capacity in the business office. And I think Donna is doing a phenomenal job trying to wear two hats, but I've said it before, I've said it and I'll say it again, that I've heard the finance committee members say it, I've heard members of the Board of Selectmen say it. She's only one person, and it's not sustainable in the long term to expect her to be running both.
Then let's do the business manager.
Well, you do have
do.
funds in the budget.
For an
Additional
additional
assistance.
accounting.
Yeah,
Yes.
Right.
But I want somebody, Mr. Bitar, if I may, that's got the certification, that understands the grants, that understands all the logistics,
That can work with,
that can assist you, Mrs. Folio, because I feel like it's a lot to handle, and I want to make sure that we're getting every bit of revenue that we're, should be having. I don't want to lose a dime, and I feel like it's hard for somebody to watch all of that.
That's why there was a 80,000 position added
Right.
in the business.
But between us and the town, is that person going to be all for us, or are they going to be also kind of working both
No,
sides?
it's
No,
in
that
our
would just
budget.
be the school.
it's in our budget. It's already there. That's why I went after
I've
the other
budgeted
one.
80,000 for that position.
And that's why I went for the other one. Because if we already have that in our budget, the business manager per se,
With certifications, though, of a school business manager?
the job description hasn't been brought before the committee for approval, but I don't think that the intent was for that position to be a business manager. I think it was to be like an
More of a
accountant some
senior
sort.
accountant,
Okay.
working under the direction of Ms. Folio and myself.
but wouldn't that handle that end of it?
I'd want somebody with the certification and
Then
that's just my feeling, somebody that really understands all the grants and,
But that doesn't necessarily mean a business manager certification. You're doing a DESI certification for something that's financial.
Curriculum directors typically handle those grants.
And a municipal accountant handles all the grants on the town side. It's very commonplace.
I think assistant superintendent is very important as well. I mean, to your point, Mr. Spitz, I feel like that is a necessity, and Dan, I agree.
Mr. Coonan?
Thank you. Knowing that we had the town put the extra money in for the person in the business office, and this is no guarantee going through. We're looking for the wish list prioritizing of what we need. At the central office, I believe Dr. Garceau needs a right-hand assistant to be able to bounce ideas off, to be able to hit more schools and be more effective. And he's on most nights, spreading themselves very, very thin and doing an outstanding job. He's only at that high level and still return productivity. And that is a must-do for our district to move. We're looking at these initiatives, and our principals are taxed out as well. Everyone's on their own little island. There's got to be some help.
So I think, as you were speaking, I was thinking of an alternative, and I think that the assistant superintendent is what we should shoot for. Pull back the business manager for now, and with the hope that perhaps the person that we get in could eventually, when we're ready, could eventually take over that role of business manager, but prove themselves in that senior accountant position or whatever is decided. So I guess my thought is to take it off the business manager and to go for the assistant super.
I would definitely agree with that.
The others on there I think are important, but I don't think that they're priority.
Okay, the one that I'm going to disagree with you on that is custodians. I firmly believe that kids need a clean environment to learn in. And, sometimes our restrooms aren't quite what they need to be. It's just, to me, it's a big deal to me. It really is that the plants are clean. And right now, I think that these guys are stressed to the max trying to do that. And I don't think that, I think if you look at, they just did that survey with the students, and the number one thing on there was dirty bathrooms and facilities. To me, that says a lot, that the kids even recognize that they're not at the level that they should be. I think we have to do something for the custodians, to be honest with you. Even if it's not all 5. I think you have to, even if you have 2 that travel, I don't know. But we've got to do something better than what we're doing now with that.
Other members of the committee?
I agree.
So are we thinking half?
I'm fine with that. I just think we need to do something with it.
All right, so we have a proposed dollar figure of $1.6 million. The impact would be approximately $126 per 100,000 for the assessment. Again, I think that it's our responsibility to put it forth to the voters and let them decide, but as long as we've advocated for what we feel is best. So I rounded down slightly.
Did you include the circuit breaker?
I'm sorry. I did not include the circuit breaker, and the reason why, I think with that is, again, it's important, but with establishing that revolving fund that we're looking at, the town is willing to put $50,000 into a fund to help us.
Mr. Bitar, that would help us wean off that circuit breaker.
If I could finish.
Okay.
$50,000 from the town, and we have a proposed additional $50,000 from the state that's pending. I think that would help us to get there. I think that it's important to shoot for that as a goal, but I don't think it's something we can do in 1 year. So
Can I suggest you do 200,000 at least? Almost cut it in half. Cut this, really make a dent into it.
the
Or even
committee,
100,000.
thoughts about that?
I think we're pushing it to the 1.6, to be honest with you.
That's kind of what I think too, but Mr. Coonan?
1.6 is pushing it. And again, and I'm not going to go back to where I voted against it before, is sustainability. Hire people the following year after that, like, we're not getting the money back.
Right.
This is a one-shot deal. And then if this doesn't go, and community preservation doesn't go, and then all of a sudden we start losing other monies as well. I mean, we're hedging a serious bet here on this. And I know this is where the committee went, and I'm not going out there throwing bones, but we keep the lowest possible number that we can. You look at the average, I don't know, $200,000, I think it's 2.25, but $250 on a tax bill, reverse $280 on a tax bill, over $30. I think
Per
we're excited.
100,000.
Right.
Yeah.
So if your average bill is, I think it's about 2.25, so you can double it, add a little bit from there. So 250, 270, 280, 300. I mean, really, you're comparing it. I'd go with Donna's number at that point, because really, we're not picking up that much. Between 1.6 and 1.8, the number is huge. You go over 2 million, then people will go, ooh. You're not going to have much of a slide between 1.6 and 1.8 when you're looking at such a high number. And the minimal impact that it is of $15 on $100,000, so between 30 to $50 on your tax bill.
Just for comparison's sake, so the town has talked for years now about how the pension is underfunded. How much have they been increasing that? Because, I mean, that's something that's kind of a long-term goal, to increase the funding in that.
Right, so it's in, our unfunded liability is in excess of $30 million.
And how much are they proposing to put in next year?
Probably, well, we had to reduce it to do the special revolving fund, so $25,000.
So, I mean, the town has a $30 million unfunded liability that they're throwing $25,000 at. We've got a $280,000 source of income that we're trying to wean off of and keep as a rainy day.
It's more than a rainy day. You have a lot of activity that's going in and out every year.
Understood. But
Changing.
But we're also looking at increasing through a special ed stabilization fund as well.
But that's for 1 year, from my understanding. And so when we're thinking of what we need for an override, it's to kind of get us in a better footing. I see the difference between these two costs being like $20 or so on the, say it again, Mr. Coonan, what were you saying?
It's not a lot, it's like $30-something.
I feel like if we're gonna, we should really ask for what we know we need.
It's a structural deficit, the way I see it, with the way you have it set up with the circuit breaker right now.
Mr. Spitz, what is your feeling on this?
I think you know where my feeling is
I know
on
you-
this whole thing, but this whole process, because I really think we also have a responsibility to the taxpayers as elected officials. And yeah, my number one responsibility is the children, without a question of a doubt, and that's how I've always felt. But we're elected by people that pay taxes. And I really feel that you need to take that into consideration as you go through this process. And every dollar counts to them. So we say, oh, it's only another $36. Well, it's another $36 per thousand. So it's $72 for a $200,000 home. So I'd like to put this forward as for the least amount that we can and still make it worth our while to have done. So I'll support the community. Whatever you guys want to do with this is fine with me, but I think we got to stop adding to this thing.
So we have a number somewhere between 1.6 or 1.8 million. If I may offer an alternative, and rather than put in 200,000, if we do 100,000 and compromise at 1.7, does that? I don't know.
If that can effectively meet the demands of the district, yeah, that's fine. I mean, because again, people will look at it, and Mr. Spitz, I have to disagree with you on this one.
Okay.
Because they were looking at the 1.6 and 1.8, but it was 15 over $30. Is it a deal breaker for some people? Some people, yes, it's going to be. The consensus of the community, okay, it's either going to pass very well, or it's going to fail miserably. I don't think you see much in the middle. 1618 is going to get, either way, it's not going to change people's vote on that,
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree with you on that
in my
one.
opinion.
Have they swayed you to 1.8, Mr. Spitz?
You know, I'll support whatever the committee would like to do with this is
I'm
fine.
sitting on the fence at 1.7, but we need to come to a,
Let's just go for the 1.8 and make the other two members happy. And I'll throw my vote in for that. I'm okay with it.
so I'd like to entertain a motion to request the Proposition 2.5 override to go on the town meeting, town meeting warrant, and do we have to do the election too? Do we have to make,
We have a little more time for the wording for the election, but the town meeting warrant's tomorrow that you have to have this
Right.
done by.
so I'd like to entertain a motion to put forth a request for a Proposition 2.5 override for the school department on the town meeting warrant as well as the election ballot. Need a motion?
I'll make a motion to put it on the ballot
In town meeting?
and the
warrant.
town meeting for 1.8 million.
Do we have a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, Mr. Coonan, discussion?
I will go with the will of the committee, realizing that I honestly support the town on so many points. I'm not in favor. I don't think we have a very good chance. Is that it'd be a better plan, a rollout. And again, like I said before, if we could wait a year, I think we get a lot more out of it, more bang for the buck, where we went for it last year. However, I'm not playing sour grapes. There's the will of the committee, and at this stage, I'm at the will of the committee, and I wish the committee would reconsider, but at this stage, I'm at the will of the committee.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Record show that the motion passes with 4 in the affirmative and 1 absent. Okay. Moving along to the next item on the agenda is the public hearing for the fiscal year 2017 school budget. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. The school committee is required under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 71, Section 38N, to have an annual public hearing on our budget. The Oxford School Committee will hold a public hearing on the proposed FY17 school budget at Oxford High School Community Room, 495 Main Street, Oxford, Mass. 01540. And the public hearing is now open. Do you wish to present any of the
Certainly.
budget? Dr. Garceau.
We do have budget binders here. Should anybody want to review those? I thought those were out, but we'll be happy to accept any questions. Just very briefly, this is an amended version of the presentation that was made a couple of weeks ago. Again, our budget is all about supporting our big 3 priorities: strengthening core instruction, improving educator effectiveness, and being as efficient as we possibly can. The context is that our school district services just under 1,900 students in grades pre-K through 12. We provide transportation to all those students, and as the largest of the town's departments, we employ a staff of 296. That includes classroom teachers, custodians, aides, clerical staff, and all others. We operate in 5 buildings: the Chafee, Barton, the OMS and OHS, and our coffee program. We also maintain multiple athletic fields and facilities for our students, and we also provide access to those facilities to local communities such as the youth leagues and the Babe Ruth baseball. We rely on the following sources for funding: the state through Chapter 70 aid and charter school reimbursement, the town of Oxford, which is directed by the state as to what the required minimum contribution is, the unrestricted general government state aid, or UGA funds, which we've mentioned earlier, and the entitlement grants, things like Title I, Title II, the special education 94-142 under IDEA, the special ed entitlement grant, and then tuitions. We have some students who pay tuitions to coffee. We also have students who school choice in. Those are really our only sources of revenue. This year, excuse me, the state allocation, through Chapter 70 is $10,343,479. I get very choked up when I talk about money. The charter school reimbursement, $24,999. Again, Chapter 70 is based on per pupil allocation with up to 14 enrollment categories. So we do receive a flat rate for all students, but then there are adjustments made for special ed students, low-income students, ELL, and likewise. So from the state, $10,343,479. Charter school reimbursement, $24,999. The required minimum contribution as dictated to the town by the state is $9,123,291 for next year. And through negotiations with the town and the town manager, he has pledged 80% of next year's unrestricted general government aid, the UGA funds, to the tune of $1.581676. Those are all our revenue sources. So again, $10,343,479, $24,999, $9,123,291 minimum required contribution, and the UGA funds, $1,581,676. We are also assessed roughly $6 million, $5,878,17 for things like general insurances, employee health insurance, retirement contributions, basically functions of the schools that are handled by the town, and we are assessed for that. So that is deducted from our revenue. What you have here is a graphic of the revenue budget, which was shared last time and is also in your packets this evening, which shows that our total school operating budget comes in at $15,195,428. It's about $34,000 less than what it was last year. And this budget summary here details the breakout by departments and schools with IT and the central administration, and then each of the buildings, right around level funded, or in some cases some slight decreases. The circuit breaker that you've heard so much about is reflected there in red. Again, used as a budgeting tool, not necessarily a best practice, kind of puts us at our credit limit. We do want to wean away from that as quickly as we can. This chart here is broken out by function, and you'll see that by far the largest, as it should, portion goes to direct instruction. Small slices for administration, instructional technology, transportation, but a full representation of where our budget funds are allocated. Our budget drivers, obviously, are human capital and staffing. That's between salaries and benefits, insurances. That is the biggest part of any budget in any municipality, particularly in schools. And then also our significant investment in teaching and learning in addition to the staffing. So what we try to do as we build the budget and work through is we look to see year to year, and there are very few this year, if there's the opportunity to convert a teaching position to another teaching position. If a section of a course closes and we have a teacher on staff that we can move, even if it's not the same person necessarily, we can open another classroom somewhere else. We try to do that because, as most often, they will be cost neutral. So we look to those first. Is there anybody that we can move into another position or create another course? We also look to see if we have adequate staffing with our part-time staff. Sometimes we'll have a 0.5 person, which basically just means they're a half-time employee. A 1.0 is considered a full-time, 5-day-a-week employee. So a 0.5 would be somebody who generally works 2.5 days per week, and a 0.2 might be somebody who just works a day per week. So we look at all those positions and say, rather than hiring somebody outright, could we just bump somebody up a little bit and have them pick up some of this responsibility? So we look at conversions, we look at bumping up full-time equivalents. Then only once we've examined all of that do we look to the need to create new positions. And once all of that has been considered, if we do need to add positions, as the committee just considered, for example, adding classroom teachers at the elementary level, then we make the decision to hire and staff. So last year, when we came in, there was, we had a significant deficit. We made a number of cuts, we made a number of conversions, we were as lean as we could be. And then in the summer, we found that we had additional work that we had to do. So there's not a lot of wiggle room here at all this year. There's not a lot of movement, there's not a lot of, certainly not a lot of new positions or even conversions. In terms of teaching and learning, the budget has to support purchases like textbooks, student assessments and interventions, consumables and lab materials, and classroom and office supplies. There are a lot of supplies that it takes to run a district even our size. The paper that we're working with this evening is an example of that. So that is also factored into the budget. Our budget now, in terms of teaching and learning, reflects a commitment to ensuring equity of access to high-quality instruction and post-secondary success, which is really what our three circles are all about, especially our red one, which is about strengthening the instructional core and the systems of supports that are needed to ensure that all Oxford students graduate from Oxford High School, college, and/or career ready. So we've continued to increase the number and variety of our advanced placement courses at OHS. We've seen great results there over the last couple of years. We're able to ensure that all OHS students will be able to participate in the PSAT exam process, because we are about a culture of college going. We've supported the alignment and implementation of fully mapped curriculum, K through 12. We've got ongoing professional development for teachers and teacher leaders and our administrators in place, and the budget reflects that as well. This partial list of unfunded budget priorities is really what populated the list that the committee worked with earlier to identify the ask for the override. This was a list that was created in the budget workshops, and then the list we worked from tonight included these items plus others that the principals had identified as priorities for their own buildings. There are some things that we still do not know, even at this late date. The state has yet to finalize the governor's proposed budget. The Senate will work with the governor's budget in May. We do need to make clear that if the supporters of school funding prevail on the governor and he increases the net minimum requirement that the town must fund the schools with, that is going to require adjustments on the town side, and the town manager will likely pull back funds from the AGA. He's made that very clear. We hope that that's not going to happen, but it should be understood. We will have additional retirees and resignations from the school system this year. We have some letters on file, and we have other people who are pursuing that as a possibility. We have to always be aware of unforeseen special ed costs due to IEP students that move into the district or students who might be in the evaluation process right now and could be determined as eligible for special ed services, as early as tomorrow with incurred costs. The transportation contract is settled for 3 years. That's not an issue for us. The utility costs should not be an issue. We are, well, I said this a couple weeks ago and I learned to regret it. We should be done with winter, so that shouldn't be an issue. And then the proposed school grade reconfiguration is really going to be cost neutral. So again, the budget is very lean. I believe that we can continue the work of improvement. I don't know that I can say that for much longer, working with the resources that we have, but again, we're all about strengthening outcomes for kids, improving educator effectiveness, and being as lean and tight with our resources and as frugal as we possibly can be. And again, our budget for this year, with the committee's approval, will be set at $15,195,428. I would anticipate that if the committee's proposed 2.5 override were successful, we would need to reconvene and adjust our budget accordingly, but that would be later in May. I'm prepared to answer any questions or take any comments from the committee, the community.
Dr. Griss, I actually have a question for Donna.
Sure.
If we are proposing the 1.8, should we not recommend the budget with the overridden figures?
No, you're going to do, it'll be two different articles, so this one will be in the main budget of the town, and then there'll be another article that says to 1.8 million for the school operating budget contingent on the passage of an override.
And then we can just amend, if it were to pass, we can just amend the budget to include. Okay.
You won't have to have another public hearing. We were discussing that. I don't think you need a public hearing if you've already identified
Right.
where you're putting it. We'll just increase it.
Okay.
Okay, that makes sense.
I would agree with that. Do any members of the committee have any questions, Mrs. Griffin?
In regards to charter school reimbursement, am I correct that those funds are decreasing every year for our district?
Yes.
So things like that to take into consideration, less money coming back to us. Any other funds projected to be decreasing for us?
Well, one of the
possibly?
ones that the SPED director and I were looking at, the SPED revolving account, where it currently has funds in there, but we were using funds this year. And I believe there's only 2 students in the place where we're getting those funds from. So that's probably going to be an area of concern that we're going to have, is will we really have $250,000 to apply? A lot of it's going to depend on how much I have to use it for this year to get out of the
So
year.
what does that mean next year, that we could possibly lose that 250,000?
Well, because you don't have that generating of revenue. I think it was about 75,000, is she still here? 75,000 that we had brought in so far this year. It's just less kids in the program,
And that's a program we have here that students are coming into?
yes.
Okay.
Although you may wish to have new programs and try to bring in new revenue on that.
Anything else from the committee?
And then one more thing about the Medicaid receipts. Is that something that we're working on now? And is there any discussion about getting some of that money from the town in the future if need be?
You've already gotten the money?
We have, okay.
So in the local estimated receipts, that money was put in, and that was added as a permanent increase on your so it goes into your marginal growth factor, which also then sets your net minimum contribution. So that all got raised quite a few years ago when we put in the amount.
But that's just the minimum that the state gives. Like, we could be submitting more receipts, correct?
No,
We could ask for more reimbursement based on services students use for, like, counseling or other things?
Well, we bill now.
We are billing?
We are billing
Okay.
now, so.
That's good to hear.
That's, if you notice in the, on the revenue budget, there's another piece for like Medicaid billing. We pay UMass, so we give them, provide them all of the information, and they actually do the Medicaid billing.
Thank you.
I'd like to,
Just before you do that.
yes, Mr. Coonan.
I just want to publicly acknowledge Mrs. Foley and Dr. Garcelle for the hard work on this budget, along with every administrator in this room that attended so many budget hearings. The information was always very easily, readily available. Why, hence, you don't see a lot of questions tonight. We were very, very well informed. So I do thank Dr. Garcelle for this, Mrs. Foley and the people in the room.
Thank you.
So I'd like to thank the people who have come here and have been very patient in hearing the budget hearing this evening. At this time, if anyone from the audience would like to ask any questions about the budget or make any comments about the budget, you're welcome to do so. Just come right up to the table next to Mrs. Folio. Nobody has anything to say? Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, so you know that's the number you'll be voting on, right?
Yeah, that's what I circled.
Yeah.
As part of the configuration team,
Could you just state your name,
Sorry,
please?
Erin Collins,
Thank you.
as part of the reconfiguration team, we did discuss moving second grade to Clara Barton. But if this 2.5 override actually goes through and we're able to add an additional classroom to K through whatever, is there going to be space for those rooms? Because there was concern about that it would be, you know, close, and then we're going to have the same problem we have now at Chafee, where we're going to be like busting at the seams, and we're going to have this problem 2 or 3 years from now.
So, if I could.
Yes, Dr.
the,
Garceau, please.
Principal Sharp and I walked the building the other day, and we identified that we have the classrooms to make the move, and we talked about the possibility that the override passes, and would we be able to open classrooms? And yes, it would put Barton at capacity.
Okay.
They would be stretched. They would be in a similar situation to what Chafee is right now, but we would be able to make it happen, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments regarding the budget? Anybody's welcome to be heard? Okay.
I'll add one.
Oh, sure.
Just so we also vote on Medicaid billing, 7,500, and crossing guard, 25,000, which is what we've had in the past. It's adequate. I'd like to add 100,000 on a request for the bus transportation, just because we are looking at, I think it's a 3% increase on the Durham contract for the upcoming year. And I'd like to try to, if we have enough at the end of the year, replace a van. So if we asked for 1,310,544, I don't know if we'll get it, but it was worth, I think it's worth asking.
Could you repeat that number again?
1,310,544.
And that's for the transportation?
Yes.
Did I recall that we were gonna request these all just be voted as one line item at town meeting, or did we want to do it separately?
Well, after talking to the Department of Revenue, they said these can't be combined in anyways.
I thought that was only if town meeting voted them separately.
Now, because these are not considered to be instructional, they should not be put in a position where they can be moved. So keeping them actually separate is, we could do the chunk of the three of them together, but not add it into the operating budget.
Okay, we'll just do it as we've been doing it
Okay.
in the past. So, so we have the standard operating budget, the transportation budget, and then what was the
Crossing guards, community services,
And that was, again, how much?
25,000.
25,000. So we need to vote on the three line items,
And
operating, transportation, crossing guards.
And Medicaid billing, 7,500.
Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the budget for the fiscal year 17, which includes an operating budget of $15,195,428, a transportation budget of $1,310,544, crossing guards and community services, $25,000, and Medicaid billing, $7,500.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The records show that the motion passes, carries with 4 in the affirmative and 1 absent. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is now closed. Next item on our agenda is an update on the capital outlay exclusion for technology. Mr. Phillips?
Just give me 1 second here to get this up. Thank you again for the opportunity to give you an update on the capital exclusion, and also wanting to reiterate the gratitude to the town for providing us with the funds to do these projects this year. What I'll do is I'll go through the list of items quickly and give a status as to where we are and the funding that we've basically used to cover those items. So the first thing we had was the district-wide networking. This was just to go through, replace all our switches. As I mentioned earlier, what we were really focusing on with this one-time fund is really to build up our infrastructure, things that, the backbone of our network essentially. So what we've done is gone through and replaced all the switches in the district. So that's basically all the connections between the buildings. All the phones are basically connecting to these switches now, printers, computers, Chromebooks, everything. So that's all been upgraded at the high school, and now we're starting to work down to elementary schools. For the wireless, we also completely changed out the wireless in the high school. This is also completely done. We went with a new system. We were using Sophos before. Now we went with more business class, which is the AeroHive, and that's also been complete. We also redid the phone system at the high school. That's also completely done. We integrated that system with what was currently at the middle school and also at central office. Allows us to basically talk to high school or call the high school as one network. The elementary schools are still using an older system, but as funds become available, that may be something we'll do in the future, just to have one integrated phone system throughout the district. So those are really the infrastructure items, things that are deal with connections or just communication. The instructional tech items that we did was to go through and do interactive boards in all the buildings. The high school, we ended up putting in, we were budgeted for 25 or requested 25. We ended up going with 28 for the high school. Those are all done. Middle school, we added 25 there. Those are also all done. For the middle school, that was a tricky building because they were using old blackboards, so we ended up putting whiteboards over the existing blackboards. Just structurally, that's what was supported best. So that's also added benefit from this, where the teachers now have a whiteboard in their rooms as opposed to chalkboards that they had before. And all the rooms are there, or 25 additional rooms were equipped with interactive projectors. For the middle school, the rooms that did not get interactive projectors already had a smart board in place, so there's just no need for them there. We're not seeing teachers who had a smart board before still love their smart board. People who receive the interactive projectors are also in love with them. So we've had no complaints there or any question about equity for sure. Barton, we end up putting in 16 boards over there. This may be a concern moving forward, just for the board's notice, is the rooms we did were the existing rooms, so existing classrooms. So if, as we move forward, if we were to add more classrooms to that building, we may have to put additional interactive projectors into that building. Also, for the middle school, we replaced the computers in the labs, running much faster. So these were just computers. So throughout the day, these are scheduled by different teachers. So we had 2 main labs that had older machines. So these were all replaced, those 70 machines. The high school had requested a 3D printer, and they were trying to integrate that into their curriculum. At the start of the school year, they were not ready. They were thinking about creating that course for next year. But luckily, the new teacher at the middle school has that integrated in her curriculum. So we have that purchased and it's set up at the middle school, and we'll be using that for middle school STEM. We'll reevaluate depending on the program offerings next year and see if we'll need one at the high school and also one at the middle school, or if we'll be able to share the resources there. The high school video switcher, that's what it was at a cost of $8,500, was requested to really get our video production off the ground. I'm excited that now they're off and doing a lot of great things. You can definitely check out their video station on YouTube, OHS Pirates. They're recording a lot of the events and they're publishing it out to the community. Games, everything that we have in-house, and just a great PR tool. And at some point, you guys should definitely check out the studio downstairs because they're really creating professional level studio. That's their goal, to have something like that. And Mr. Generico has done a great job with that. And the last thing here is school-wide security cameras. So this took the longest to get off the ground because it's just so many moving pieces. This has been paid for, and they're starting installation this week. We'll start with the high school, and then we'll start working our way prior to the middle and the elementary schools next. Work required to do this, we basically went through talked with the PD to make sure they're on board, made sure that they thought the locations we're looking to put the cameras were also appropriate for them, and also talking about sharing that information. So if something were to happen, they would have access to our system. Also meeting with the principals to make sure that the camera locations is also ideal for what the trouble areas they may have in their buildings. So that's all been mapped out, and installation will start this week. So I'm really excited to get that project going. Also, we mentioned this earlier, the Chromebooks for the U.S. history classes, those are in, and teachers are using those heavily. Also, with the use, we upgraded the wireless in those wings as part of the entire high school. So we haven't had any issues with those additional 120 But as we add more and more Chromebooks, we just have to keep monitoring to make sure we're on top of that. So in summary, all the projects are either complete or in progress. All the items in green are basically the completed items. That includes the Eno boards, the replacement of the computers, the Chromebooks, the video switcher, 3D printers. Things that are still in the works are the security cameras and the network switches. Those are what we're currently putting in this week, and hopefully should be done in the next couple of weeks, depending on timing. With the savings we've had from especially the interactive boards, with going with those that were about $2,000 cheaper than going with an Eno board, we were able to move some money to really do some more infrastructure items at the middle school. So we were able to get that wiring process done at the middle school. So that's in blue at the bottom for $64,000. That was an item that was not budgeted, but because of the savings we had before, and thinking about moving forward with more devices online, we want to make sure that the infrastructure we have will be able to support that. We also pulled a few items that were in the operating budget that staff had requested, like document cameras or non-working clocks here at the high school. So we funded that through the capital. Again, a one-time fund that we have available that we can use to really maintain or at least fix some of the technology that we had in the buildings. Our next steps is just to finish upgrading the network switches. It's really just in the elementary schools. It's the switches that we're putting in, they work to power the devices. So like when the cameras come in, or the wireless access point, it gets the power from that switch. So it will put us where we need to be to support the network for the coming years. And then, of course, finish installing the security cameras in all the buildings. And once that's done, then we have to deal with the training and the sharing with the police and the PD and so on. And so at the end, we have about $74,000 left right now. And from our previous presentation, that's what we thought about using to purchase Chromebooks for the one-to-one initiative at the high school. That fund is not allocated anywhere, but if some, as we've been doing with the rest of the money, if it's not something we can use for Chromebooks, then we'll probably look more towards infrastructure, because it's again, one-time thing, and we can't, it's something we need to make sure we can use in the future. That's it. Questions?
No? I think we're good. Thank you for the update. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the layout of roadways memorandum. Turn the floor over to Dr. Garceau.
Thank you, Chairman. In your packets is a letter from Sean Duvall to the Board of Selectmen. What they are looking to do at the town meeting is accept custody and care, I guess you would describe it, of this access road here, which really serves as the driveway to come down to the high school. There's the proposal at town meeting to rename that stretch of land, stretch of road, Carbuncle Drive, and the town would assume responsibility for plowing and maintaining that road. We currently have issues with this being, the address of the high school is Main Street, and we're quite a ways from Main Street. So it has safety implications for when we have emergency responders trying to find the buildings or those kinds of things. And again, the road would become the responsibility of the town. So that's going to be presented at town meeting, and I just forward it for your information.
Any members of the committee have any questions regarding this for Dr. Garceau?
Quick thing.
Mr. Coonan?
I think it's absolutely 100% needed. And I get this one at the grocery store all the time too. Why are they charging us, we the town work together, that we pay for them to plow that? So obviously, that would lower our bill, wouldn't it, quite a bit? And that's something I just have never ever figured out, why we get an assessment for them to come through with town's trucks. And they use our buildings, we don't charge them. You know, just trying to play fair, but it's something that a lot of people have to say, and myself included, but I think it's a good idea. I'm not crazy about the other fact, and I have to look at the plan later, and I'll talk to Mr. Foley about putting driveways on this as well, to making this, granted, this will be a public road, but one of the areas is it's house over here that shares common driveways. Would that be where the access came down the other way? Now we'll be back to our, coming off of us, but we can look at that plan as it comes through. But I think, especially the maintenance, because it is getting beat up a little bit, and I did appreciate the stop sign out there, the speed trap, or the speed or how fast people are going, because now is the time, it's very, very back and forth, parking on this side, over this side to the fields, someone's gonna get whacked. So now, when it is a public road, police can enforce it, and we can make sure we keep those speeds down, keep our kids safe. So there's more positives than negatives to that.
I agree, and I know that, I believe it was earlier in this school year, there was a need to call an ambulance for somebody on one of the fields, and there was some confusion surrounding the address.
It's a field hockey game. Yes, I was here.
Yeah, so I think that, anything we can do to improve safety, I would imagine that the middle school would probably retain its Main Street address, but then I would think Coffee and the high school would be Carbuncle Drive addresses, so.
Total makes sense.
I'd like to entertain a motion that the committee supports this, as depicted in the memorandum from Mr. Devo.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The record show passes 4 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Where's my agenda? Okay, next we have out-of-state field trips, and let's see, make sure I didn't skip anything. In our packets, we were presented with an out-of-state field trip request for Project Success to go on a trip to Roger Williams Zoo in Providence, Rhode Island on April 29th. Any questions on that field trip request? I'd entertain a motion to approve that field trip request.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Field trip request is approved. The next field trip request is for the 2nd grade at Chafee to attend the Connecticut Science Center. And I'd like to, I was planning on abstaining tonight, and I have a feeling Mrs. Griffin was also planning on abstaining tonight on this vote. However, because Mrs. Ennis isn't here, I would like to publicly state that I am planning now on voting on this out of necessity, and that I do not feel as though my vote has any conflict. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the 2nd grade field trip request to the Connecticut Science Center.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Did you vote? Okay, let the
If
record.
I don't need to vote, then I'll abstain.
I just didn't hear.
I said aye.
Okay, so it passes with 4 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Moving right along, information and proposals. The School Operational Needs Committee, I attended in your place, Mr. Spitz. Do you want me to give a brief?
You most certainly can. Very brief.
Very, very brief, because we're really running late. That committee met. They asked for some information from the school committee, which I promised to provide to them after our meeting tonight. Mainly the dollar figure that we'd be requesting for an override. And I think that they had some other additional questions in terms of how we would plan on using those funds and how they would support the educational vision for the district. So I think that's pretty much all been laid out tonight, but I will ask that we provide them with that list. Perhaps, I don't know, Dr. Garso, if that's something you and I can
Sure.
work on, and just, I believe they're not meeting for another week or so, so if we can get that information to them. That's all I have regarding that.
And thank you for
subcommittee.
covering that for me.
My pleasure. And any policy subcommittee updates?
No, we've approved what we had so far. We do have more coming. So probably by the next meeting, we'll have more for the committee to review.
Thank you. Dr. Garceau.
I have nothing else. Thank you.
Mrs. Folio, do you have any additional? I'll take that as a yes.
Yes, I just have one thing that I wanted to bring up, because the warrant is closing tomorrow for the town meeting. And I had mentioned it before when you asked about transportation fee. And if you wanted to do the Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, you'd have to do it at an annual meeting, so we'd have to have this voted to put on to the warrant. So I just wanted to know what your thought was.
Right. We didn't put that on the agenda, so I'm not really comfortable taking a vote on that tonight, but if my memory serves me correctly, you provided us with an additional alternative, correct, that could be established outside of town meeting by the vote of the Finance Committee?
Not for this. This is the one that when I asked the state, the Department of Revenue about, they said use the 53E and a half.
Okay.
And you don't have to have a vote on a transportation fee. So all this does is establishes a fund annually. It has to be voted annually.
And there doesn't necessarily have to be any funds allocated.
You can only spend what you have in it. You can only put in it whatever you vote to have for a transportation fee at some point in the future. The only thing that you need to do is put a cap on how much could ever be spent in 1 year, even if you had the money. For example, if you charged a fee and you collected $20,000 and you had a cap of $10,000, you could only spend $10,000. $10,000 would have to stay until the next time you could change your mind then and up it. If you didn't have, you only had $5,000, you could only spend $5,000, even though there was a cap of $10,000.
I will open it up to the committee for discussion, but I don't foresee us implementing transportation fees in the coming school year. I think that it's getting late and we have a lot of unanswered questions, and I believe the projected revenues, it was almost, I don't want to say not worth it, but we'd almost be, beating up the same people that we're asking to provide us for assistance for an override. But does the committee wish to move forward on this evening?
I don't.
No.
I think if I just clarify my no, I think you cause more confusion. A couple years ago, we asked that we negotiate contracts for, I think, up to 4 years on buses, and it got absolutely hammered, like, oh, they're trying to steal more money from us. It created more confusion than I think they don't do good.
I just didn't want to not bring it up since you had asked before, and I
Yeah.
said it's at an annual, and that closes tomorrow, so I just...
Thank you. From school committee members, Mrs. Griffin,
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Spitz,
All set, thank you.
Mr. Coonan.
Same here, thank you.
Well, I'm going to be brief, but I'm going to say a couple of things. I went to the boys' basketball game. They played a tough game. Fortunately, didn't go their way, but they did an excellent job, and for them to come as far as they did was highly impressive. Again, I'd like to echo Mr. Coonan's comments, thanking Dr. Garceau, Mrs. Folio, all the administration for their work on the budget. I've been told that we go in a lot more detail than maybe some other districts, but I think it's important for us to understand it, and so I thank you all for your hard work, late nights, having budget workshops. This isn't the latest we've been, by the way. We've been much later at some of our budget workshops, so. Lastly, I'll just say, I keep hearing in the news and around town about social media, and I'd like to the students' use of social media in various fashions, and I think it's our job as a school district to educate them on proper ways of using that. And I'm hoping, I'm not sure if there's districts that have policies surrounding that and student use around that, or if there's any way that we could incorporate some lesson on responsible use of social media to our students if we're not already doing that, because they're just seeing more and more frequently in the news, and even a few instances here in our own community where we need to help these kids understand what's right to do on social media and what's probably not a great idea. So, for further discussion at another time. Regarding topics for future agendas, an aide from Representative McKenna's office reached out to me and asked if Rep. McKenna could come before the committee on the April 11th meeting to discuss charter schools. I will not be able to attend the meeting on April 11th, so Mr. Spitz will be chairing that meeting. Assuming no committee members object to that, I will reach out to Representative McKenna's aide and let them know that he will be on the agenda that evening. Any additional questions or comments from the floor? I'll open the floor if you have anything about anything that any comments or questions about anything discussed on the agenda this evening.
Hi,
Hello.
Stephanie Latuga. After hearing Mr. Phillips talk about the capital outlay, it's to my understanding that there aren't enough Eno boards at Clara Barton with the second grade going there. Is that true, or am I misunderstanding?
We will make sure that there are.
Okay, so that'll be added into the capital. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else? At this time, I'll close the floor. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Record show, 4 in the affirmative, one absent. We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming this evening.